Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular commission meeting scheduled for Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Please call the roll.
Mr. Franco.
Present.
Mr. Long.
Present.
Mr. Boylston.
Present.
Ms. Burns.
Here.
Mayor Petrolia.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. Okay, we are at agenda approval. I'm going to make a recommendation that we take 8H, which ended up on the regular, and move it to the consent agenda, 8H. And if there's anything else,
Madam Mayor?
yes.
If I could move item 6I, the resolution 2212-23, and perhaps make it 4B. I'd like to read it into the record, please.
Absolutely, hold on. Yes. Okay, so we'll make it 4B.
That would be great, and I appreciate that.
Very good,
Thank
will
you.
do. Anything else from anyone?
Miss Jelen, would this be the time if I was going to bring up moving the nominations, P&Z and SPRAB, to the next meeting?
I think we're gonna keep it where it is.
I'd like to keep it where it is, but because I
And then
need
have a
some more
conversation.
direction.
We're gonna have a
please.
discussion about it.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. Motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mr. Boylston.
Yes.
Ms. Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. All right, so moving on to presentations, we're gonna start with our police officer. Miss Lachey King is gonna tell us who the employee of the month is.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commission. Lachey King, Human Resources Generalist, and I am here to introduce to you our Employee of the Month, Officer Rumi Florville. Assistant Chief Hunter will come on up and tell you what he did to deserve this award.
Good evening, Commissioner. Officer Florville has been with the Delray Beach Police Department for over 17 years, and he's always been an exemplary employee with us. This security detail that we started here at the City Hall about 3 months ago to have a permanent detail. We always had a detail, but we actually stepped it up to actually have a permanent detail officer here. And Officer Florville put his name in the hat in regards for coming over here and actually being a part of this detail. And he has truly been a pleasure for us at the department, but I know after reading everything that he's doing here, the translations and the different things that he's doing and how he's helping with staff, I know Anthea and her crew, she's always talking to me and how much they love him. And we're just extremely proud of him and what he's doing and what he's done and how he's represented our agency as well. So again, we thank you, Officer Florville, for the hard work and dedication and commitment that you provide to the city of Delray Beach.
Thank you.
So, on behalf of the mayor and commission, we will present you this plaque. Isn't that nice?
Thank you.
And also, we have a certificate for 8 hours off with pay.
Hey.
But officer, we need you here, so.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I really though, I did not expect it. I am truly humble for you guys for even choosing me. When I remember when I first started the first week here, so I went to almost every section and asked them, what do you guys do exactly? So they were very quick to help me. They give me a crash course pretty much. From every department. So I really appreciate that, though. I didn't even know they were watching me. That was just being myself. And when I said by being myself is, lastly, I just want to say that the best advice that I could receive was from my mom. I know it may sound a cliche. I came from Haiti, and I remember when I came here and I told my mom that I wish I would have come here sooner, had than being a mom. And then she said, so now that you're here, what are you going to do about it? And I tell you folks, at that moment, I knew I had to do something. So everywhere where I am, I try to make the best of it. So because even my wife and I sometimes, before we go on a trip anywhere, I said, we could just stay home arguing or fighting for free, or we could just go. I'm not going to spend money. True story. I said, we're not going to go out and start fighting. So we're going to go there and make the best of it. If we don't like the place, we just don't come back.
There you go.
So I'm here. I'll do my best and hopefully make you guys proud. Thank you.
You already have.
Thank you, man. Oh, with the plaque? Get the best angle now.
Thank you so much, Lachey, and thank you so much for everything that you do for us. All right, moving on to 4B, which is going to be our resolution, and I believe our Commissioner Frankel is going to read. This was originally 6I for anybody who's looking, and we're going to read this into the record. This is Resolution 212-23, and this is the expressing of support for the State of Israel. So it's all yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's obviously been a very trying week in the Middle East. Just watching the news, it's getting tough, and I think it's only going to get tougher.
Yep.
Since I made this request last week, I have a couple interesting stories to share. One, I have to thank our city attorney, who had this drafted, 12 hours later. I asked for it Tuesday night, and she had it Wednesday morning. Last Friday, our Rabbi Shmuley Piston, who is here, led a wonderful service at Chabad of East Del Rey. We asked for some support from our police department, as that was the Hamas Day of Reckoning. So there's many people in the community who just didn't feel safe. Made the call to Chief Major, and I know Assistant Chiefs Hunter and Razor also supplied support. As I left the service, there were 6 officers there. And I also know our city manager was also there to participate. I received a text message from a gentleman who lives in our city named Chris Javier. He works for a guy named Floyd Mayweather. He's a pilot. They took Floyd Mayweather's plane full of supplies. They had a 2-hour window to land in Tel Aviv. They got in and out. They saw the bombs going and intercepted by the Iron Dome. And we also have an employee who is personally affected, and I'm not going to go into details because they're private, but she has some personal things going on with a hostage going on in Gaza. So I read this with pride, being a member of the Jewish community here in the city of Delray Beach, and I thank everyone sitting up here first and foremost for your support. Resolution number 212-23, which is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, expressing support for the State of Israel. Whereas on October 7th, 2023, Hamas launched an attack on the State of Israel, firing 2,500 rockets into the nation with the full rights and privileges afforded to all nations under international law. And whereas the City of Delray Beach stands in solidarity with the State of Israel in its efforts to safeguard its citizens, protect its borders, and ensure the safety and security of its people. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, as follows. Section 1. The City Commission of the City of Delray Beach stands in solidarity with the State of Israel and condemns this unprovoked attack by Hamas against Israel and its citizens. Section 2. The City Commission of the City of Delray Beach supports Israel's right to defend itself and protects its citizens from violence and terrorism. Section 3. The City Commission supports the right of the State of Israel to exist as a sovereign and independent nation with the full recognition of its borders and territory, passed and adopted the 17th day of October. It's awaiting Shelley Petrolia, mayor's signature.
I will be signing it. Thank you.
So thank you all very, very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for reading that into the record as well. Okay, moving on to comments, and I don't know if anybody caught I think it was 60 Minutes, about the grandfather who got a call from his son. They were in a room in their house. I think it was on the kibbutz. Most of them had been massacred. Did you see that? And he got into the car, drove in to get him, and ended up saving people along the way, having to turn around, drop those off, go back in until he could get to his family, and he got to his family. It was just unbelievable. So these stories are they're going to be endless, and some of them are not going to have that type of, or many of them are not going to have that type of results, and all we can do is pray. Thank you for that. All right, moving on to comments and inquiries. Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, and I actually have two items for the public benefit. One is in relationship to a communication myself and all of you, I believe, experienced last week relative to the pending new water treatment plant facility project being developed by the city of Delray Beach, Florida. And as we are in the midst of the selection process and we'll be engaged into that the coming weeks, both my office and that of Director of Utilities Hassan Hajimiri, we're collaborating with one another to be able to host a town hall engagement to discuss associated details as it relates not only to the facility itself, but associated infrastructure and anticipated requirements that will be executed, much of which is in collaboration with the South Florida Water Management District and other jurisdictions to help us be successful on a very long-term basis. So during the first quarter of the new calendar year, the first couple months in 2024, we look forward to making that opportunity available so that the public can be thoroughly informed relative to the meaningfulness of the project and how the city of Delray Beach will continue a successful trajectory with respect to implementing water quality and associated services. That's one item. Second item, my office over the last couple of days, and I've had discussions with a couple of you all over the last day or so concerning the Marine Waste Seawall Improvement Program and the fact that there is some sense of urgency to get to that place and get that squared away. We are in the beginning of the new fiscal year, and I am pleased to report that this is amongst the very first major projects to be initiated in the new fiscal year. Fiscal year, of course, beginning October 1. Today is October 17th. My office, along with various other departments, will convene next week to begin the necessary selection process such that we can bring on contractual services. A few highlights to note include the fact that the seawall will be a first component of the overall program, not to mention roadway and stormwater pumping station facilities and infrastructure will be upcoming features of the overall project. However, more to come. It's a multi-year effort. However, those are the initial steps to bring relief to the community in that section of Delray Beach, Florida. Likewise, ladies and gentlemen, major projects that beckon, and I thought it would be appropriate for me to outline for the commission and the public leadership and guidance being offered to that effect relative to both projects. Madam Mayor, I yield at this time.
All right, very good. So at this point, we're going to invite the public up for comment. The meeting is now open for public comment, so if anybody would like to speak on any topic or agenda item other than a quasi-judicial or a public hearing item, which they'll have the opportunity of speaking at later when they're called, please state your name, address, and make sure that you've signed in, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Commission. Thank you. My name is Sheila Townsend. My address is 200 Northwest 5th Avenue, Unit C, Delray Beach, Florida. I'm here today to, first of all, thank you for the installation of the pickleball courts at the Catherine Strong Park. I am a regular and frequent player there, and also I'm here today to ask you for an improvement in the lighting system there. Many of the lights are out, and so therefore our play is very limited when it starts to become dusk, and also the parking area is dark as well. I do want to thank you for removing the the mobiles that were over there, because it's it's better because it's open and it's a safer environment, but we do need the lights in the parking area, and the lights at the pickleball courts would also facilitate us being able to play there longer. I don't know if you all have been there during the day and evening, but if you come by, you'll see that all the courts are full. So I want to thank you for the installation of that. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Willie Adams. I live in Boynton Beach, and I also am an avid pickleball player. And me and a lot of guys from the city of Boynton play at Catherine Strong. And the issue is the lighting. It's not really safe out there with the lighting, especially in the parking lot. It's kind of eerie when you have women that play and they're walking in the dark to their vehicles. So if we can find a way to enhance the lighting at that facility, it would be greatly appreciated. And I commend you guys on what you guys did at that court, because that is a beautiful, beautiful court that you guys put there. It is a hidden jewel, and we're taking advantage of it. And I implore you for your services. Thank you.
Thank you. So is my husband. He was over there this morning. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thanks for letting me talk. My name's Amanda Maxwell, and I live at 4017 Aloe Path in Boynton. I'm also an avid pickleball player. I play every single day, about 3 hours a day. And I'm fortunate enough not to have to work, but so many people do. And we get like maybe 1 or 2 hours before it gets dark. There's a lot of trees around there, so I'm here about the lights as well. And also, on the courts, there is one wind guard, and if we could get wind guards all the way around the court, that would be amazing too, because during the winter it gets a little bit more windy, and those balls are just wiffle balls, so they kind of blow everywhere. But the courts are amazing. They're absolutely amazing, and thank you for doing that. Just lights. We just want lights, that's all.
Thank you so
very
much. You got it. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jay Alpin, 3130 Lowson Boulevard, right here in Delray, and I am pleased to see that you're pursuing the historic designation for the Delray Beach Golf Course. I hope that at the same time we're still continuing to plan the restoration of that course. And I have been contacted from 3 different companies that want to restore and run our golf course.
So have I.
And there's strong interest out there, and I strongly suggest that you hire a professional RFP writer with golf course experience. And they're out there. I've spoken to them. You know, I'm not a pickleball player. With my
But
my
you do play golf.
With my age and my physical conditioning, you know, I'd like to be able to see that golf course restored before I can no longer play.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Thank you.
Hi, good
Yes,
late
ma'am.
afternoon to all. I'm Carter Van Voris, 770 High Point Boulevard North, Delray Beach. I want to speak to 2 items. One is on the agenda and one is not on the agenda. I would urge the commission to please think about what you want to see between, not what an expert wants to see, what you want to see between Swinton and 95. I think that the idea was always to have that be very pedestrian friendly and for our town to be walkable from absolutely one end to the next. The second item that I would like to speak about is on the agenda tonight. It's item 8A. It is the part of the ordinance 31-23.
Mayor,
Wait
excuse
a
me.
second, I think that might be, is that a public hearing item? That you'll have to talk to at that time. We can't speak to it. That's a public hearing item, so if you, I know you sat through earlier, you might be with us for a little while, but we're gonna be calling up for that to speak at that time.
Okay,
All right?
terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna force you to be here with us. Sorry.
Good
Hey,
afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Angelita Gray, 3765 Riverside Way, Delray Beach, 33445. I am here this evening because I want to thank you, first of all. I want to thank the former commissioners that were here that actually approved the pickleball courts, the 6 dedicated pickleball courts at Catherine Strong. And I want to thank all of you for supporting us moving forward. As you know, pickleball, may not know, pickleball has been around since 1965. and it is actually the fastest growing sport in America. And I want to thank you specifically for making sure that these courts were in our community, because if the tennis courts weren't in our community, Coco Golf wouldn't be from Delray. Venus and Serena wouldn't be able to call this their home either. Miss Taylor Townsend have played here in Delray Beach. And I've actually gone on to have a tennis scholarship for playing at Pompey Park, along with a lot of others that Mr. Dennis Murray have trained. And so if those courts weren't there, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I want to thank you for allowing us to install pickleball courts in our community, because now children will be able to go on to school. We have Anna Lee Waters, who's 16 years old in our community, who is now a professional or been a professional. And we have a lot of up and growing, Ava, English, and James. They're all from Delray Beach, and they play, some of them play at Catherine Strong, believe it or not. We also have a lot of up and coming Tara Black, Hurricane. She plays, and she's from Boca Raton right here. So we want to thank you. But the only issue that we're having, big issue that we're having, is the lighting. We actually need to make sure that we put beautiful LED lights there, because just regular lights won't do it. We need the big, strong, powerful lights there, and to make sure that we have some screens, wind screens. We do have about 100 people that come to our park every single day between the evening and we've only been open since May, and it is a beautiful place. It's the best kept secret in Delray Beach, and we're growing. We're now, you guys approved, Parks and Rec approved a 2 weeks summer camp that we did for children. We have over 27 children in that camp from the community, very diversified. And we're super proud of that, and Sam and his staff have been amazing, and they're going to be putting on another one in December. So we're moving along here. We're trying to get children and people ready for the Olympics. We do have collegiate teams, believe it or not, already here in Miami. Miami has a team, and they've been playing. So it is just the best kept secret. And so we appreciate you, and we thank you so very much. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yes, sir.
George Long, 46 North Swinton. I have also come bearing compliments. First, the Parks and Recreation Department is doing something really cool. I was in my front yard, people kept coming by in these little groups with pink shirts on, asking me questions like, do you have a book I can take a picture of somebody reading? Do you have something that I want to imitate a album cover for a rock band? Can I borrow your rake? And well, anyway, they were having can I say a hell of a good time? Mm-hmm. They really were. So whatever you're doing there, I think it's called the Delray Amazing Challenge. Really, really worked out very well. People enjoyed it so much. Secondly, on the beach, public beach, I know somebody quite well who goes every day to watch the sunrise. And so my source tells me that you're closing off the pavilion with the tape in it. It's been a really good thing. Apparently, a lot of people were sleeping overnight there, something like that, and that's very much appreciated. It's very successful. Well, I'm talking about the beach for a second, though. I was there, I think it was late Sunday afternoon, and there was somebody blaring a radio, and I was just wondering if you could check your list of things not to do at the beach and put something about the radio. I mean, it was loud. And to add to the obnoxion, they had two flags up of political notes going to that. But anyway, it was so loud that I was watching a school of mullet coming by, how they migrate south, and they got to Delray and they turned around and went back north. I mean, that is loud. And also, while we're talking about the sunrise at the beach, I would like to tell you about a little hack you might want to try. If you go out to Lake Ida, you can watch the sunset over I-95, a beautiful thing. You can hear the roar of the trucks going by and everything. Record that, so you don't have to go early in the morning, and just play it backwards, and it's just like a sunrise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commission. Bernie and Yvonne Shapiro. We're also 2456 Northwest 10th Street, Delray Beach. That doesn't matter. We're also pickleballers, and we're here to thank you for the courts at Catherine Strong Park, but we are here to try to advocate to have the lights upgraded. As you know, there's 4 poles there. There's 3 lights on each pole. Only 6 lights work. We would appreciate it being upgraded to LED lights. for two reasons. One, they're brighter. It'll make play safer. And more importantly, from a city perspective, long term, it'll save the city money because they're cheaper to run. And also to try to get some lighting in the parking lot for the ladies that play there, because it does get dark and it isn't safe. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for
Oh,
coming.
and I was also speaking for people that didn't want to speak.
Sure, absolutely, we know.
And
Thank
also
you.
to add the wind guards,
Yes.
which would be, okay.
We got that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rabbi.
Good evening, Commission.
How are
First
you?
of all, I think I got to get into pickleball. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm
It sounds
telling
like
you,
with everything.
you're
everything,
missing
everything
out.
else,
You're missing out on
pickleball.
something.
Number two is thank you for getting me out of bath and dinner with the kids. You know, because I have to be here.
Introduce yourself again and
I'm Rabbi Shmuley Biston from the Chabad of East Del Rey. And I'm going to use every one of those 3 minutes because as soon as I'm done here, I'm going home to help with the kids.
There you go.
But no, seriously, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you, to the city. Since I moved here to take over the Chabad of East Del Rey, everyone in the city has been nothing short of amazing and supportive. And words matter, and words make a difference. So it really means a lot to myself and to our community to know that the city is with us and everyone's standing behind us. And to the city, and also like to the police department. And when we had our event Friday night, everyone was there, making sure that we were safe and secure. So really, thank you guys so much. It really means a lot, and hopefully we only have good news coming out from the Middle East. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for hosting the gathering. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it.
We got Hanukkah coming up.
You got it. Looking forward. Thank you. Anyone else? Are you coming up, Laura? No? Okay. Very good. No, nobody? All right. Public comment is closed. We are moving on to the consent agenda. I need a approval as amended.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ballston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
All right. Moving on to
Mayor,
7.
I'm sorry, before you move on, Ms. Johnston just informed me that Granicus is not working, so if people wish to watch the commission meeting, they have to log on to YouTube.
Okay.
So I just want to make you aware in case you get any text
YouTube,
during the
everyone
meeting.
who's able to see. I guess the ones that can't, I don't know what I can say.
You do.
Will Granicus be up eventually with this recorded, or is it?
I don't know,
not
but we
gonna be
typically
recorded?
put the YouTube link, so
Okay.
we always have a backup.
All right, so there you go. Call your friends. All right, so we're moving on to 7A, motion to authorize a waiver of waiver from section 8C, and this is. Oh, this is a. I'm sorry. This is a motion to authorize a waiver, Mr. Orris.
It's a pretty simple, straightforward one. There was a miscommunication between an applicant for a special event and staff that caused a delay in a response. So they were not able to request in a timely manner
Right.
for a trunk or treat along Southwest 5th. The policy requires that all special events notify neighbors 30 days in advance of the event, so they were unable to do that because of the short timeline. So we wanted to ask the commission for a waiver from that. My understanding is they had verbally discussed this with folks on the street. There's only about 20 or so folks that need to be notified. They were going to notify in writing prior to the meeting. I don't know if anybody representing the Keith Strong Foundation is in the audience to confirm that. But simply a Halloween event for the kids, and we thought it appropriate to bring forward and try to make it happen.
Very good. Anyone
Don't
with
see any
comments? No? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Ballston?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Orris. Okay, 7B, this is quasi-judicial, resolution number 164-23. We also have a second one, that's 7C. 7B, I guess one is with this, that's not quasi part of it, okay. And then 7C will require the quasi-judicial hearing. Let me go ahead and read into the record the rules. This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city will be allowed 15 minutes each to present their case. The public will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each, or a maximum of 6 minutes if a person represents an organization or a group of people who are present and agree not to speak. The city staff and commission and the applicant may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city or the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not be legally made upon personal views as to whether a project is a good one or not, nor may a decision be based on the number of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that all decisions must be made on the basis of whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations. At this time, if anybody is here to speak to Resolution 164-23, which is 7B on the agenda, or 7C, Resolution 189-23, please rise and we're going to swear you in. Raise your right hand and be sworn in.
By the authority vested in me as a notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
Okay, so let's go to ex parte communication. This is on North Federal High, 2410 North Federal Highway. So I'll start here with the Deputy Vice Mayor. Any?
I briefly spoke with Mr. Costello.
Spoke to Mr. Costello this morning.
I spoke with Mr. Costello this morning.
Same.
I did not speak with Mr. Costello. I spoke with the owner of the property over the weekend, or yesterday, I think it was. So there you go. All right, so at this point in time, we're going to have the staff go ahead and enter the record in the file into the record.
Good evening, Anthea Geniotis, Development Services Director, and I'd like to enter file 2023-161 into the record, and just also to state that item 7B1 is sort of an accompanying agreement that would follow this one if it's approved without another presentation.
Very good. It's all yours,
All
Mr.
right.
Costello.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Jeff Costello, JC Planning Solutions, Delray Beach, representing 2410 Federal LLC. This property is the former Ellie's Diner, Deli Restaurant, North Federal Highway. The proposal, as you can see, only incorporates the east 20 feet of the old Dixie Highway. There's a couple views of the area. Properties to the north, the Budget Inn. To the south is the boxing facility. To the east, of course, the banquet room, and then to the west, across the tracks, is the Seacrest Soccer Complex. So a little bit of background: this roadway was actually platted in 1946, had an 80-foot right-of-way. Over the years, there have been a number of abandonments of this of the east 20 feet of the right-of-way, as you can see on the aerial. And this continues that progression with regard to this proposal. So it's the east 20 feet, about 202 feet long, a little over 4,000 square feet. This property, of course, the property owner owns 2410, and the property has an underlying land use map, has a designation of general commercial, is zoned general commercial, and this is within the North Federal Highway Overlay District or redevelopment area. With regard to the east 20 feet, there are existing utilities within that 20 feet, and our proposal is to dedicate the 20-foot general utility easement similar to what has occurred in the past. To the west side of the area is the city sewer main. To the east side is an AT&T duct bank. With regard to comprehensive plan policies, positive findings can be made with regard to consistency with the comprehensive plan. Regarding mobility element, this section of, as you can see in the table, it includes two areas of Dixie Highway where there are widths that are greater than 50 feet. This section is considered a local street at a 50-foot right-of-way. This also, the North Federal Highway redevelopment plan included a little streetscape section of showing the 50-foot right-of-way improvements, and then, of course, the existing street network and connectivity will be maintained. Positive findings can also be made with regard to section 2.4.6 M5 A through C. Abandonment findings. Again, this is pretty consistent with what has occurred in the past. Access to properties will be maintained. We will provide a general utility easement. The existing street network connectivity will be maintained, and of course, our city engineer recommended approval, and the Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended approval. If there's any questions, I'm available and appreciate your consideration.
Very good. Thank you to the staff.
So ultimately, I think you've gotten a good overview from the applicant. Hopefully my presentation will start. I do want to show you the surrounding the surrounding properties that have requested and received a similar action recently. Darcy, thank you. Basically, the request is to abandon the right-of-way and in exchange have the exact same property, covered by a general utility easement to account for the underground sewer line and then ultimately AT&T's needs as well. It's on the west side of Old Dixie, so the main property faces Federal, and the comprehensive plan, the mobility element categorizes streets and what their ultimate build out is. So what's the maximum width you're going to need over time based on the street classification. So in this case, Old Dixie Highway is a local street, a local road, and the ultimate right-of-way is 50 feet. The current right-of-way is 80 feet. And so abandoning 20 will leave 60 feet, which is in excess of the street classification per the comp plan. You have to make the same findings from Chapter 3 that you're familiar with for other land use actions. That there's consistency with land use. There's no land use change proposed as part of this, and that concurrency in the needs can be met. And that's why there's the requirement for the general utility easement. We wouldn't be able to make positive findings without another way to account for those utility needs. There have been multiple instances in this area where the same request has been considered, and I know we have weighed right-of-way abandonments over time, but ultimately an abandonment is not a parcel of land that the city owns. It's a right-of-way that when you no longer need it, is supposed to return to the adjacent property owners based on how it's platted. So this is the plat. It was called Delray Beach Estates, which is interesting given the way it's grown over time. It's not estates. So again, you have to, for right-of-way specifically, in addition to Chapter 3, that you don't have a use for the land. You're never going to have a public use for the land. And while we may not need it for transportation, the utility easement is necessary for those uses. Ultimately, you're maintaining access. You're not abandoning a right-of-way that's going to leave someone landlocked. That's not the case here. And that there's no issue with utility services, and that finding can be made provided the utility easement, which is the next item, is approved as well. The process requires a recommendation by a city engineer, and that's in the backup as well. And ultimately, it's just consistency with sort of how the area has been handled historically over time. The Planning and Zoning Board heard the request on August 21st and voted unanimously to recommend approval. So we're here if you have any questions.
All right, very good. At this point, we're going to open it up to the public. If there's anybody here that would like to speak to Resolution 164-23, now would be the time to step forward. Seeing no one, public comment is closed. Any rebuttal or cross testimony? No? No? Okay, so to the commission. This is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's all the way down the street, so entertain a motion if there's nothing.
Motion to approve resolution number 164-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Okay, and then we have 7B, which is accepting the underground, the general utility easement.
Motion to approve 7B1.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes, okay, and we're moving on. Thank you very much, Jeff. Resolution number 189-23. Again, this is quasi-judicial, so let's go to any ex parte communication. This is the setback at 310 East Atlantic Avenue. So let's start with Vice Mayor. Any ex parte?
Nope.
Ms. Burns?
No.
None.
None.
None long? Nope. Okay, none for me either as well. So if there's anything, it would be on the server. So if we could have you go ahead and enter the project file into the record.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Anthea?
Anthea Janiotis, again, Development Services Director, and I'd like to enter file 2023-199 into the record. The applicant is here at the presentation. I have to say the agenda was adjusted, so we're going to probably have the wrong agenda items on our screen, but it's definitely this resolution, so.
Okay, very good.
Go.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hi.
Steve Myatt, architect, 639 East Ocean Avenue, Boynton Beach. And this is a request for a waiver for 2 feet along the front setback at 310 East Atlantic Avenue. We're straightening out the facade there and improving it, as it currently has a metal roof, mansard type roof there, and we're going to hopefully take that vertical with new finishes and new impact glazing, separate entry doors. It now has a shared vestibule that we're going to be taking out. So the condition now is that one side, the east side of the building, has a 5.3 foot setback. So it's already non-conforming to the 10-foot requirement. Based on our request for these improvements, the city has asked us for a 2-foot dedication of additional right-of-way, which we have done. So when we straighten the north side or the west side of the building out, that brings it to align with the south side, or east side, I'm sorry, and it's flush with the other buildings and with the part of the building that's already in that alignment. So we're requesting our setback to be reduced to 3.3 feet, and we were approved by the SPRAB board recently, and we request your approval of the same.
Thank you so much. Go to staff.
Sorry, we were trying to get it full screen, but I think I have similar images, so you can work off mine if you would like. Okay. So if we can go to the PowerPoint for staff. Thanks. Okay. Okay, so this is for 310 East Atlantic, which is in the Central Business District. Atlantic Avenue is, of course, considered a primary street, has required retail frontage, and it's surrounded by similar uses. This is a picture of the building today, and it was constructed in 1940. It's been altered a little bit over the years. It is part of the Atlantic Avenue evaluation for the historic district. I believe it's a contributor. But putting that aside for now, I do want to talk about the setback change that's being proposed. It's similar to some of the others we've had, but there's a couple details that I want to make you aware of. So right now, like many buildings of this era, the storefront windows inset. This is similar to what was originally on the Hands building behind the arcade. And the request now is to take the existing setback, which ranges between 3 feet 3 inches to 6 feet, where it's deeper in front of some of those existing storefront windows. So if we go back and we look here, you can see it. The building comes out here, steps in front of the storefront windows, and steps out. The proposal is to sort of straighten the building out and infill with new storefront windows coming forward. It's also important to note that unlike some of the proposals we've seen before, the doors are opening out. They're not pulled in the way they were before. Now this is a bit of a game of feet and inches, but this is our street with the highest amount of pedestrian activity, so we have a lot of rules we pay attention to about how to do it. The first is that, again, the building's built in 1940s, so it is not set back 10 feet to begin with, right? It's absolutely not. It's between 3 feet 3 and 6 inches and 6 feet. So there's 2 rules. There's how does that fit, and then in general, we have this sort of catch-all rule about our streetscapes. That we're trying to have at least 15 feet from the curb to where the building starts to make room for trees and signs and lights, and a way to have a 6-foot clear zone. And then if you wanted to have, whether it's displays or seating in the setback, and that sort of invisible line, as I tend to refer to it, kind of changes depending on where you are downtown, right? So the goal is that all of it should work together, however much your setback is and however whatever we're achieving in the street through the right-of-way to at least add up to a minimum of 15 feet. So in this case, we have a building that doesn't add up to 15 feet to begin with. But the curb zone is there. There is absolutely room for the 6-foot clear zone. It's this remaining front setback that should be 5 feet, that is a little over 3 feet. So what happens in that remaining front setback is you can step out of the flow of traffic, of foot traffic that is, right? You could stop and look in a window. You could have foundation planting. You could have sidewalk cafe if it was a restaurant. So it seems like a simple request, but I think it's important to note the 15-foot minimum is not there, and the code says that you shouldn't be reducing that. We've had similar approvals despite that recently, but in this case, I think the issue is the doors are not inset, so they swing out into that area as opposed to being sort of set in, which is what the 3 new, if you think of how Hands is built out now, the doors actually don't swing out, they're pulled out of it. So that is the only concern, really, about what's proposed. It will be an update to the building. Here's the drawing there. So street trees, this is where, signs and things go, people walk through, and this door is probably 3 feet, so it's going to be within the setback. It's not going into the public right-of-way. But the area in front of the new storefronts will be less than 15 feet, just to consider whether or not in setting the doors might resolve that potential conflict. Nonetheless, exactly as is presented to you, did go to DDA, and it did go to the SPRAB, and both boards recommended approval. So I think that's completes my presentation, and we're both here, and I will go to whatever drawing you need, since we couldn't get yours full size, if I can. They're not great, though. Hang on. No.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak to resolution number 189-23, please step forward. Seeing no one, public comment is closed. Back to any cross or rebuttal testimony.
The only rebuttal I have is that, we do maintain even with the door swinging out, we maintain the pedestrian zone, which was discussed along the way with our design. So I wasn't aware that there would be any, objection to the placement of the doors. So that is why we did it, that way. And, we do, like I said, we maintain the pedestrian zone as required. We're certain to do that.
Very good, thank you.
And I think just to give you as much of an overview as I can, it is clear that the building, it goes around those openings right now, and in the past that has been allowed to infill. It's just something to consider as the Ave is so heavily trafficked, particularly on the weekend evenings. So.
Okay, to the commission. Let me ask you a question. So the glass on the right-hand side is going to stay where it is, correct? And the glass on the left-hand side is going to be set back 2 feet? Is that basically how that's working, or no?
So it's really to infill this piece here to
Okay.
pull the new storefronts forward.
Okay, so you're actually coming out with the storefront. I see.
And you can see actually the door that's there now
Swings out.
To his comment is open and propped open, which many retailers do to try to invite you in, so it's not a problem. But I believe that the proposal changes this into two. I'm sorry, the drawings are so pale. It's the best we could do, I guess. But
2 doors swinging
yeah,
out.
so 2 doors will swing out. Now, will they stay like that, or will they be propped open? I mean, that's.
So I guess the question that I really have is the corner of the building on that picture where you see the 2 swinging out, the corner of the buildings, okay, does that protrude out to a buffer of that door, or is that door swinging out amongst itself? In other words, it's solid and then it's swinging out, or is there a column that sticks out a little further? Because it seems like there's a jutting out, but I think that we might be moving the doors forward to now be swinging into that space that it's not swinging into right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you what I'm seeing, but I want you
I
to-
think I
to
saw him
confirm I
nodding.
get it right. So if you look at the drawing on the left, this
Mm-hmm.
is the configuration now, right? So this is the setback of the property. So right now, and we can look at the picture again, these walls comes out, the
Comes back.
storefront sets in, another wall sticks out, capturing and sort of shielding the door that's set back here. So this, if you look at this, it's a
Yep.
good indicator. Over here is here.
Okay.
So these storefronts come forward and align with that. I'll go back to the picture. So that, in plan, that wall is here,
Yeah.
protecting the wall, protecting the door a little bit. So all of this would come forward, right? And it would swing out into the Ave. So that's the consideration.
And then the question I also have is, with respect to, let's say there's eventually a restaurant or somebody that would like to put something out on the front, how would that work without having the space? And is this then would be eliminated from being able to have cafe tables and things like that?
So there's still 3 feet, a little bit over 3 feet, that would be available if you were selling retail food. They're not a restaurant, right? So if they were another type of Sloan's, right, which is a food service that we would let you have a sidewalk cafe, they would be able to have some of their space here, and then if that is the full extent of the 6-foot clear zone, there wouldn't be room for anything other than going here and here and here, because you have to keep that 6-foot clear zone.
Okay, very
So-
good. Great.
So it will exceed that.
Yeah.
The doors are where it.
Yeah, the way that it looks like from the previous is it's even though it's an out swinging door, there's some protection there from swinging into somebody walking by, because you've got a wall that's protecting and you also have an indentation of the building in. Now we're going to be making that building almost like lineal to the walk space. So if a door opens up, even though it may not be in the pedestrian way, who tells a pedestrian that the 6 feet ends right here and the 3 feet of right away begins where that door is swinging out? That's a concern that I have, in that it might be opened to somebody that doesn't realize, and they're over a little further towards the building. I don't know how to protect that, and I think that it's a little problematic. I'll wait to hear what my colleagues have to say. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, that's probably my biggest concern. I don't mind the pushing out of the storefront there into that kind of what is useless space. But the doors swinging out. I look at the rest of the block, and there's one retail establishment that pushes out, but Urban Outfitters is Setback. And even you were here when Capital One was probably approved, right, Anthea? And it has like a guardrail to steer people to the left rather than to the right, where the doors will be opening out outside of Capital One Cafe. I'm really surprised in the 7-0 from Sprab on this. Was there any thought or feedback in regards to just setting the doors back?
From what there was no feedback, but I don't know how well. I mean, if you look at the drawings, it's a refreshed storefront. Some things like that are very pleasing to the eye. I think bringing the windows, towards the customer is something we constantly have people wanting to do, and it's that battle against how
Well, the
crowded
windows
our
aren't the
sidewalks
issue. We're not
are.
talking about the windows. We're talking
Right.
about the doors.
I mean, if you were okay with the windows and just require that the doors be sort of inset into the space so that they're captured internally, I'm sure we could work with the applicant prior to a SPRAB approval.
I would agree to that.
Okay,
And then,
I think that
it would come back to you as an appealable, so you would see it
that would
again
be
if you
something
didn't.
that would totally answer it would address the concern that I have.
We considered that at the beginning, and so it's not a surprise. It would be a concern, and we would work with that.
Okay, very good. Ms.
Only
Brooks?
concern I had was the doors.
Okay, anything
People
else?
walking into the
Nope.
doors.
All right, so entertain a motion then. As I guess as we discussed, amended.
Right, to condition that the doors be inset, not to swing out further than they are.
Yeah, we would most likely have a niche.
Yeah.
The doors would still swing out, but they
Sure,
would be
but
protected.
it would be
within a
protected.
niche.
I think they have to swing out, right?
Yeah.
For
Yes.
code
It's
purposes.
tough to get
Yep.
a hurricane.
Yeah, in
Right.
swing.
Door
Yeah,
that swings
exactly.
Yeah.
in.
No.
I don't think we have a little flexibility there. Motion to approve resolution number 189-23 with the adjustment that the doors, when open, are flush with the front of the storefront.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, have a great night.
Yep.
All right, moving on to 7D, resolution number 196-23.
So as you may recall, on May 2nd, 2023, the commission adopted resolution, can't see the number, a resolution that essentially created a zoning in progress for in lieu parking requests. So we have not been accepting those applications pursuant to that direction from the commission. I'm just asking for an additional 6 months to continue the zoning in progress so that we can bring those proposed changes to the commission.
Okay, great. Motion to approve resolution number 196-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
All right, we're on to nominations for the appointment to the Delray Beach Housing Authority, and this would be Commissioner Burns.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Mr. Robert Cantwell.
Second.
All right. Any concerns, questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to resolution 211-23. Mr. Orris.
This item is a special event sponsorship request for the Delray Beach Concours d'Elegance event that already took place last June. This is the one event that you allowed to come to you retroactively, as they had applied back in April. When you heard the item in May, we didn't have a process in place, and you had allowed this promoter to come forward after the event. What they are requesting is a sponsorship in the amount of $8,897. This is an actual amount. This is not estimated. We have completed the billing for this, so that is that amount. They have come forward with their actual costs and actual potential, not potential, but actual amounts that they anticipate sharing with their nonprofits, which is contained in the agenda memo. It's basically, they found that their income for the event was just a little over $12,000. They're requesting just under $9,000. And each one of their 5 community partners will receive $4,253 if you approve. Max Zengage from Delray Concours Foundation is in attendance if you have any additional questions for him. The remainder of the information should be is in your backup, including the letter they have and their justifications.
Great.
Any questions?
No.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
All right. Moving on, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Moving on, 7G, consideration of request for the Howard Allen events. Mr. Orris, you're going to be presenting this one as well.
Yes, Mr. Allen is requesting that to, excuse me just a second here, to host the 35th annual Downtown Delray Beach Festival of the Arts on a portion of Atlantic Avenue from northwest-southwest 5th Avenue to Swinton Avenue. You may recall a representative of his firm stood before you to discuss this, and we've got our locations a little mixed up. A map was presented at that time that actually was the correct map. What they want to do is Swinton west to northwest-southwest 5th. Mr. Allen, of course, is here to present to you any other particulars that you may wish to hear about.
Okay, very good. Did that change, or is that what we all had decided?
We originally had that. There was a mix-up, and they started talking about going east of Swinton. and east of Swinton was not part of what the discussion should have been, and it is not part of the request.
Okay. So we're doing West Atlantic.
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
From Swinton going west.
I got you.
To Northwest Fifth.
Okay. All right, so
It doesn't close Fifth though. You're able to make a left and right on Fifth.
Yeah, we're gonna, we didn't get these emailed on time, so I do apologize. I don't know if we can show you.
You can hand them to the clerk
Okay.
and she'll pass them down.
There's just a couple there to pass
That's fine,
around.
we can just take a look.
That's the possible detour, and then this is our actual layout. Having a straight line and conducive layout for the show is really important because it keeps a nice flow. We can go either way with the detours. We weren't sure which would be less invasive, so we kind of gave two options, north or south, or we can do both detours, whatever we feel would be the best.
So this is the first year you're doing it on West Atlantic, correct?
Yeah, we've always went over the intercoastal.
Yeah.
And it was a huge, chaotic kind of decision of where to move the show because for 30 years it's been, just west of the intercoastal and then east of the intercoastal. This is a huge move for us.
Yeah, I remember this was one of the options that we discussed, but with the DDA's input, it was decided to do Federal to Swinton and maybe slowly continue to move it this way. But I think what you had stated to me is that you're set up and not wanting to cover, in front of retail and in front of restaurant.
We
with
don't
your
want to block booths. any stores off.
You're right. You didn't have enough space, so maybe accelerating this a little bit.
Yeah, we also looked at the Old School Square in the park, but I think the amount of exhibitors as well as patrons that we bring to this event, it's one of the biggest. It would destroy the grass and everything there, so that wouldn't work as well. We looked at going down some side streets, but it gives bad spaces, and we have all top quality exhibitors. We don't have any lesser ones that we could stick. It just wouldn't be fair.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, we'd be approving it for 1 year.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
I agree,
Oh, try
because
it.
I'm thinking that we may end up with a bigger quagmire than when we had at the bridge. I don't know, because this is 4 lanes of traffic going in both directions, now being rerouted through what is essentially neighborhoods, to get around the event. I don't have a problem trying it, but I think that I'm going to hear how it what the response is by everybody because we may want to change it again. I'm not trying to say that we don't want you here. We do. We just want to find the right place for you that doesn't impede the traffic and is the least impactful on those that are trying to get around our downtown area. This may be the right place. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think having both of the detours set the way they are might alleviate any one area of getting the worst of it. I think that would be probably the best, is to do both of them, the north and south, so they can get around without, congesting the neighborhoods.
Yeah, no doubt about
And we
that.
took a ride down the whole way to see too, and it does look like if they cut them off at 6th and try to get them to detour there, that 5th or 6th, either way, if we started the detour, so some could go around 6th, some would, come up to 5th, so it wouldn't be so congested.
Okay. So
I don't think
5th
it's
would
a-
be a detour.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing. Could be good for the businesses there as well. So.
I think if I can historically share with you, we started 34 years ago in the then Atlantic Plaza.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm very proud to say this is now rated one of the top art fairs in the country. People come from all over to be there. The locals like it as well. And we just thank you for all you've done over the years to allow us to be here. And this new location will be a good opportunity for us.
It's it's going to be interesting too, and this is going to be just something that we're dealing with no matter what. Anything that we're doing on West Atlantic is getting the cars to you to be able to park, and that's going to be a real interesting thing, because they're going to have to pass to get to the to the parking garages or places to be able to park. They're going to have to try to get beyond you and then walk back. So it's going to be kind of an interesting.
Well, we want to put locator signs up all over the place.
Right.
The letter P in blue, whatever.
Good.
Directing people to the garage and any other available parking.
Sure.
If you have any recommendations for additional parking west of the show that we could look into, we're happy to do that as well. And we do want all of the businesses just east of Swinton to just bank on the food and the shopping and everything, because people do come for the whole day. We get a lot of phone calls prior to the event. People plan their vacation for it. So we bring a lot in. Plus, we do strive for local and hyper-local exhibitors as well as national, so it brings a lot in. We feel like if we could find parking a little bit west, or, to keep the exhibitors away from the basic parking, we still want them to go east of Swinton to go have dinner, have lunch, do shopping and everything. We don't want to, take away from that at all.
Are there any arrangements that have to be made for the county parking lot to be utilized that weekend?
Yeah, I believe we always have to ask them, make sure that we reserve that time.
I think that would be huge.
But I mean, how do they get to that? It's right in the middle of the, they'd have to
Yeah,
go,
they would have to make a right on 5th and
then go
come
back around. The other thing
So you
that,
can say parking that way or go to Old School Square parking
the
lot,
other
parking
thing that I would recommend is, potentially, I don't know how many people you're expecting, I'm sure it's huge, is to, maybe have an alternative site, off of, we did this before, what was the recent, it was something, Delray Fair? Yeah, where they actually had them parking at the tri-rail, and then they were busing them in, having a trolley or some sort of a way of being able to kind of like looping around. That might actually work as well. So I don't know, Laura Simon has more information on that, so I'd definitely recommend you talking with her about some potential ideas for where to get these people to park.
With a lot of the grass lots that were open and stuff around here, if we can get contacts with them, we don't mind doing the COI and just letting patrons park there and, put up parking. Even if, areas have where they want to do paid parking for the people, it usually ends up popping up around all of our shows that have been there a long time. The local landowners begin to do that so that they can do paid parking.
Yeah.
We don't have a problem with that either. We'll make sure if we have contact information, we can reach out to them and say, hey, listen, if you want to put your kids out here with a sign, it's going to be a lot closer parking too, which will alleviate a lot of that problem.
And one thing we discussed with Laura was the merchants in the past years of, I believe the figure we came up was we raised about $2 million in sales, non-art related daytime sales for the stores up and down the street. So perhaps we can come up with some kind of program on the sidewalks, not on the street, past a show site, just to draw the people down.
We'd also love to have a booth just specific for the local merchants and restaurants. If they want to have any kind of sale going on that week, we can, do a nice booth with a few tables with all the information so that people who might not have planned on going might see a nice restaurant menu or a sale happening at a clothing store. We're happy to set that up and man it.
Okay.
So that way they're going to still benefit from everything.
Very good. So, any other questions?
No.
All right. So it's
willing
going
to
to be an
try it for a year.
interesting. It's going to be an interesting attempt to see if this works, and if not, we'll be back here working it out for next year. So we don't.
Well,
we
next
can
year
make
I'm
it
gonna
to 36.
Next year I want to talk about pickleball.
Oh, you and everybody else.
Well, also keep in mind if there's any recommendations as we're moving forward, if anybody comes up with any kind of great idea, if you get a hold of Laura and let us know. We are very pliable on making this work.
Yep.
And we're hoping that if we can move up here, whatever we need to do to hopefully make it work year after year, we're very open to.
Sounds good. Sounds great. All right, very good.
We need a motion.
Motion to approve 7G.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
And yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
You got it. And
Thank
definitely talk to Laura about parking ideas.
Yeah, we work with her all the time. We appreciate
Sounds
all her
good.
input. Thank
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, very good. 7H, reimbursement of attorney's fees.
So on this one, Commissioner Long, or I'm sorry, Deputy Vice Mayor Long has a conflict of interest, so he's going to be stepping down from the dais.
Okay.
Stay close. So as the agenda cover memo stated, this is a reimbursement of attorney's fees and costs pursuant to the policy just recently adopted by the City Commission. There was an ethics complaint that was filed against Deputy Vice Mayor Long that has been recently dismissed. I believe it was dismissed on September 8th, 2023. I provided all the backup, and this is a reimbursement request in the amount of $11,880.23.
11,000. 11.
11. So it's mostly attorney's fees. Deputy Vice Mayor Long had to travel to Tallahassee. So there's mileage and meals, pretty similar to when we reimburse our employees when they go to a conference. I included those in there. Frankly, candidly, any one of you could face a situation.
Oh, I have.
And you have. And when an ethics complaint dismissed, it should be the policy of the commission that somebody does not have to use their out-of-pocket money to defend themselves against something that's dismissed. Absolutely. Obviously, if somebody's complaint is not dismissed, then they're on their own.
Different
But
story,
in this
yeah.
case, this should be perfunctory in my opinion. But I can't put it on consent because Commissioner Long can't vote on it.
If there's any way for us to recoup any of these dollars, I mean, if this continues to happen, and this is the first time we've had to do this, but
This is the first. So the
the
policy
political
does say
environment.
that if the commission makes a finding, I believe the language is that it's frivolous, that you can direct me to file essentially a motion with the state of Florida, requesting that the city be reimbursed. So it wouldn't be this, we would reimburse the deputy vice mayor, and then potentially if you directed me, I would petition Tallahassee to order whoever the complainant is to reimburse the city for these funds. The finding is essentially that the complaint was done with malicious intent to injure the reputation of the officer or employee by filing the complaint with knowledge that the complaint contains one or more false allegations, or with reckless disregard for whether the complaint contains false allegations of fact material to a violation of Florida Chapter 112. And the motion gets filed with the Florida Ethics Commission, and the complainant would be liable for the cost plus reasonable attorney's fees incurred in defense of the person complained against.
I would caution you, number one, that we don't want to say to the public, you shouldn't file something you think is important. The second thing is this rose to the level of it was addressed, and then it was agreed to move on in that process. Is that correct? So there was something there. In other words, there was it wasn't usually they either dismiss it or they hear it. Correct? That's what happened with
So
mine.
there's different stages. So initially, somebody can file a complaint.
Right.
If it's not legally sufficient, it can be dismissed at that
Correct.
stage. This one, there was probable cause, which, just for the record, and Commissioner Frankel knows this, that's a very low standard. It basically means that you met the baseline requirements to file something. This one got investigated, but then it was dismissed.
Right. So
unanimously.
when you're looking at something that might have probable cause versus being filed frivolously with ill intent and all of that, I would imagine that that's a very high bar to have to meet.
Malicious intent is a high standard. So, I mean, candidly, if something gets dismissed at the front end almost immediately, that would be a better argument to say
Correct.
that it is frivolous. However, this was investigated and it was dismissed. So it's not like Commissioner Long had to go to a hearing, defend himself at a hearing, and then it was dismissed. It didn't reach that level of review. So this is almost like an intermediate level of review where the commission as a whole determines whether or not they desire to move forward with the complaint.
I have yet to see it not move on to that stage where at least they look into it.
No, we've had several that have been blown out.
At the state level?
Yeah.
Oh, or at the county level, I have not seen it. We even had one where I'd filled out the form and you had sent the letter and everything was done and it didn't matter. Another one where the time had passed and it didn't matter. They still take the next stage and look into it. So I absolutely think that we should move forward, and that should be our process, that we go to the state and we ask for those funds to be paid for. Yep.
Not me.
That would be reimbursing our taxpayers, correct?
That's right. For malicious or frivolous. Yeah. Accusations.
Well,
So
maybe we
moved.
should go back to the one that was filed against me. Do the same thing.
And
If
me
it hasn't
do the
run
same thing. And
against-
I'd probably hire. I probably wouldn't represent myself. I'd probably go ahead and hire an attorney next
It's
time.
always good to hire a lawyer.
And I'd probably go up to Tallahassee as well. But this isn't about us. This is about moving forward, especially protecting our future board members and elected officials.
I do think that it does send a strong message to the community, right, about filing a complaint. I mean, these are sworn in under oath, and there's that aspect to it. But if the commission finds that there was a malicious intent to injure the reputation of the deputy vice mayor, or it was with reckless disregard for whether the complaint contains false allegations of fact, then you can move forward. So you have to make one of those findings, and then at that point, if you think it's appropriate, I mean, and you would be directing me to file this with the State Commission on Ethics. They may say they don't agree. Right. So, they might look at it and say, well, we don't think it met this high burden, and they might kick it back and say,
Sure.
we're not going to order that, or they might say they will. So,
But at least as Commissioner Burns just pointed out, it's taxpayer dollars. So
it is taxpayer
So
dollars.
at least we are going and trying to recoup some of those funds. And let's be honest, these pop up when? Election cycles. Every single time they pop up at election cycles. They don't pop up any other time. So I stick with my motion that I would like that included in our policy.
I'll second it.
Well, it would be in the reimbursement.
Yes.
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 All right. Motion is seconded. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Nope.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
All right. And that is part of, we don't have to do a second motion for the fees. That was 100% of everything that included in the motion.
Correct.
Okay, very good. All right. Mr. Long can come back in. Moving on to public hearing and second readings. And this is ordinance number 31-23.
So, Mayor?
Yes.
A, B, C, and D are all related, so I'll
Okay.
read A, B, and C together, and then
All
we
right.
can have our presentation from staff.
All right, very good.
So 8A is ordinance number 31-23, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations of the City of Delray Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, administrative provisions by repealing the adopted Chapter 2 in its entirety and readopting same as revised in order to amend and update the city's development application approval procedures and the authority of certain officials and boards to create a more efficient process of development review, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, authority to codify, and providing an effective date. 8B is ordinance number 32-23, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations of the City of Delray Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, zoning regulations, Article 4.1, Section 4.1.4, use of lots of record, amending Article 4.2, annexation and initial zoning, amending Article 4.3, district regulations, general provisions, Section 4.3.3, special requirements for specific uses by adopting a new subsection 4.3.3 BB, performance standards for multifamily development, amending Section 4.3.4, base district development standards, subsection J, height, amending Article 4.4, base zoning district, sections 4.4.1 through 4.4.7, and sections 4.4.9 through 4.4.27, and section 4.429, amending Article 4.7, family workforce housing to be consistent with recent amendments to Chapter 2, administrative provisions, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. And 8C is ordinance number 33-23, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations of the City of Delray Beach Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 3, Performance Standards, Article 3.2, Performance Standards, Section 3.2.4, Standards for specific areas or purposes, and by amending Chapter 6, Infrastructure and Public Property, Article 6.1, Design Standards and Requirements to reorganize the standards for transportation demand management and provisions related to bus shelters to be consistent with recent amendments to Chapter 2, administrative provisions, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, authority to codify, and providing an effective date. This is second reading, public hearing.
Okay, so D was not included in that? It was just A, B,
D is
and
a
C?
resolution.
Okay.
So I
So
don't
will
need
we
to
handle
read it.
that separately?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right. Ms. Giannotis?
Okay.
I feel like there should be a drum roll.
All right, so these three ordinances are interrelated based on the tentacles, as I call them, of this code where, change this, but then it shows up over here and over here and over here. So this was absolutely a team effort with Development Services and the City Attorney's Office. Amy Alvarez is the Assistant Director. She and Rebecca Dassery have been, I think, working on this just for months. Lynn's been working on it for months. There were 2 outside counsels helping, so this has been a long way to get here. And this was at the direction of the commission to try to find opportunities for having a more holistic, efficient process. So 3123 was the ordinance we thought we were writing, which was to repeal and replace Chapter 2, which is our administrative provisions. Then we found other things that needed 3223, and then we found more and needed 3323 to capture it all. So I'm going to try to give you a quick overview of how this works. Amy is standing by with searchable, ordinances up and the code, so she's ready to assist me if you ask me a question I can't find quickly. I think it's important to understand what happens right now with the project review process. So typically we require a pre-application meeting with staff. We tell people, we confirm, like, this is your zoning, and they ask us questions about, different concerns before they draw and submit an application. There's an intake meeting to make sure the applications are complete. There's a staff planner who's assigned. There's a determination that the information is sufficient to have a technical review. So while development services takes in the projects, it's important to know that there are multiple departments in the process, right? So you've got building, utilities, fire, PD, engineering. Neighborhood and community services is evaluating the strategy for trash pickup, even, because it's important. It has to work. And then depending on where the projects are, we might need, if it abuts a canal, Lakewood Drainage District is in the initial review, FP&L is in the initial review. So all of these things happen. TAC is generally a 2 to 3 week review internally of the projects. And this is important because these ordinances are going to expand administrative authority. So I want you to understand how much technical expertise there is behind reviewing these projects. It's typically a 2 to 3 week process, right? We have a track we run on, so you kind of have to jump in, and they're finishing other ones as the new ones come in. If you're Sunday Village and you're 4 or 5 blocks, it's going to take a little longer. It's a big project, but generally this is the process. Everyone who goes through TAC gets all of their it just left me gets all of their comments in writing by every discipline. We are not doing this verbally with your project, right? There's too much at stake. You literally get a list of, here's the code provision that you don't meet, or here's the information I don't see that you need to tell me about. They're provided in writing. Resubmission is currently up to the applicant. So boy, they're on us to get their comments in 2 to 3 weeks, but sometimes they don't come back for months. Sometimes they never come back. Sometimes they're right back in the next week. It depends on how complicated the adjustments needed are. Whether they want to move forward. And I'm bringing this up because there's some time frames that are going to adjust. When you revise your plans, you didn't tell us what your setback was. Please indicate it, right? They are required to give us back the same comment letter and then tell us how it got adjusted. And for anybody watching on TV, you can say, did it, or you can say, see page A.3.1, we put the setback there, so there's ways you can make your review go faster, just saying. And so the whole process goes back again. All those reviewers go back, they double check that their comments were addressed, and that's when it moves forward to a board consideration. So what is changing in this repeal and replace is that the state has adopted a time limit of 180 days to a quasi-hearing unless both parties agree to do something differently. Which means we're going to say you have to resubmit to us within 60 days. And if you don't, we're going to assume it's either an automatic withdrawal or you're going to send us a note saying, we understand we're not going within 180 days. This, we actually have a waiver example from another municipality of how they're handling this time frame. So that's coming into play. So we keep doing this until you're ready to go to a board. This is a screenshot of like a running calendar. It's like a shared doc that is a live document. It changes over time, where we are always trying to figure out, there's 2 commission meetings, there's a SPRAB, there's an HPB, DDA's got to be in the mix on this one, and we're constantly trying really hard to balance your agendas. So when the perfect storm hits and you're looking at me like, why did this happen, that we have all of these quasi items, we really do try very hard to spread them, but we have to respond to our applicants as well. So just keep in mind to back into those meetings is that you have to write a staff report, your supervisor needs to read it, it's all got to get posted a week in advance so that the public has a chance to look at everything and see what's going on, and there's advertising requirements as well. So when it's like, why can't I be on the next SPRAB, and they're emailing you, why can't I be on the next SPRAB? Well, because you needed to be ready 3 weeks in advance, not just the one, not the night before the meeting, right? Because your volunteer board members need to be able to review it. So that's kind of the process now. This ordinance in front of you is going to expand administrative authority in terms of what staff can approve, and it is going to use the Development Services Management Group in a more active role for when technical issues come up with construction. So the other thing it's going to do when we talk about boards, it's going to combine actions into one application and as much as possible so that it is a holistic review by one board. And the community, sometimes they're getting noticed on different pieces of a project and they kind of don't know when the whole decision is getting made. This will put things like when you have an increase in density that used to require a conditional use, you would, be getting that from planning board, and then you would go over to SPRAB for your site plan. Only planning board gave you the density, and now SPRAB has to consider landscape waivers because it doesn't all fit without a little bit of give. So there's the idea of trying to pull them all together into one cohesive application and one evaluation. This does a number of things. It's better for the public to get their arms around. It's fewer meetings for staff to prep for, which, we were never fully staffed, so that's always good. And it's better customer service for our applicants and consolidates all those board actions. And then when we have incentives are things you're trying to achieve. So it should be easy to own a historic property. It should be easy to build workforce housing as part of your project. So we had discussed in the very beginning when you gave the direction to us to try to be more efficient, that was there a way to just consolidate the number of boards? We have a lot of boards. We have to find volunteers for all of them. Most of them have professional qualifications, all of those things. So here's why that didn't happen. So we consolidated applications and we've divided them up. However, the charter dictates that you have a board of adjustment and that you have a planning and zoning board. And the reason you need a planning and zoning board is state statute requires the local planning agency for each city. Then, so that left SPRAB as kind of like the one that maybe we were targeting to consolidate in with planning and zoning board. However, the state continues to take a rather heavy-handed approach to development review in local government. And so they passed a House bill a couple of years ago and then doubled down on it by making it retroactive more recently. And that is not what I want to see right now. So right now, Chapter 163 says that land development regulations relating to building design may not be applied to single-family or two-family dwellings unless it's in a historic district is one of them. So historic folks are protected. And then the only other one is if the jurisdiction of the local government has a design review board, and here's the part that got added, created before January 1st, 2020. Because when they passed the initial rule, a lot of our neighbors who didn't have a SPRAB made a SPRAB. Because we have people that want things like BPOA design guidelines that are not necessarily a historic regulation, it's a design guidelines. We have other neighborhoods that would like to see some of that. So it's really important that we keep SPRAB for that reason. So what I'm going to explain to you is more of a reallocation of duties and a consolidation of review. So Ordinance 3123 repeals and replaces Chapter 2 in its entirety. 3223 is picking up all of the references to using a conditional use process for density increase. And then getting rid of duplicative language, kind of reorganizing a little bit as we were trying to take the standards for increased density, move them into a true performance standard section, and reflect the new levels of site plan. And then the last one was there's the rules for when you have to provide a bus stop and other things were weirdly in a performance standard, and they really belonged with the other transportation. I mean, it's just an odd thing that just needed to be shifted over, that we were in the chapter, so we moved it over. So currently there are 5 different classes of site plans. The first one is sort of, it seems like it's all the accessory pieces, like a wall, a fence, a slab, dumpster enclosures, and then it also includes architectural elevations which face the street, which is, you know, kind of a higher concern, particularly in downtown. Class 2, is modifications that don't rise to the full performance review, which is the concurrency standards when you're looking at like transportation trips and how much trash is it generating. Interestingly, you'll note that there's nothing purely quantitative about how these are described in the code. So then we get to 3 and 4. And I used to always have to go to Mr. Scott Poppy and try to understand the difference between a 3 and a 4. Why is this one a 3 and that one's a 4? It didn't make sense. So again, are you partially looking at them? Or are you fully looking at them? Again, no thresholds. What you're going to see has changed. And then class 5 is a little bit more simple because it's a total new build. And whether that new build is, you know, a 5-story building or it's, you know, a smaller building, it's the same. So when I talked about consolidation, for a new application with a workforce housing density increase, right now the first stop is it goes to Technical Advisory Committee, then it goes to Planning and Zoning Board for the conditional use recommendation, that goes to City Commission for that density increase. All of that gets decided before it goes to SPRAB, and then it appears as an appealable. And so instead, those types of uses would go to TAC. They would go to Planning and Zoning Board for recommendation, including the site plan. You would see how that density appears on the site. Mm-hmm. And then it would go to City Commission for final action. No need for an appealable report because you've already seen it. So that changes staff having to prepare for, 4 meetings. Even the appealable report takes time. Amy does it. She'd be here to tell you that it does. And then down to 2. And it really, I think, for our residents, they see the whole project. Mm-hmm. It's not 2 different actions. One of them is more theoretical than the other. And then by the time the physical design comes through with all of its details, well, we already got the density. So you really can't comment on that now. So, this puts it all together, which I think is going to be a lot better for a review. So again, holistic review. The other thing is that waivers would be reviewed concurrently. So, you would look at it all together as one instead of the waiver over at SPRAB after the density is given. It's meant to be more efficient for everyone, but I think it's just easier for the community to participate in, and it would be a shorter review period for applicants. So here's how the different levels are divided up. We'd be going to 4 levels. Level 1 is an administrative review, meaning TAC and everybody looks at it. If it fully meets the LDRs, it could go be administratively approved. Mm-hmm. For that, you're not building any new building area, okay? This is just you're renovating your space, maybe you're redoing your landscaping. We just had, for example, the Seagate Golf Course. It's already a golf course. It's not trying not to be a golf course, but they wanted to totally redo their landscape. As long as they met the code, that didn't need to go to a board. And it did, and it added a lot of time, and they were super frustrated, and their representatives are used to working in other municipalities, and I kept trying to explain to them, we just don't have administrative authority here very much. So this would allow those types of things to move through, I think, more quickly. And so I think that would be, a good thing for that. Level 2 is where, we're getting pretty progressive here. And you're trusting your TAC committee, who really does know what they're doing. It's all in writing, I promise. Which is a level 2 would be new construction or additions to existing buildings that are less than 15,000 square feet, which is the threshold for green, which starts next month, or 5 or fewer multifamily buildings. Multifamily, so townhouses, things like that. You would have those projects would still go on the appealable report. They have to meet the LDR. If they're not meeting the LDR and you need a waiver, you're going to a board. We're not doing anything like that administratively, but this would put you've met the code, it looks good. Now, there is a provision that is added to the director's discretion, which is that I can elevate it to a board with a written reason why. So if I'm concerned that it doesn't, it's not compatible with the adjacent neighbors, if we're concerned that it's not consistent with the adopted design guidelines, we can elevate it to a board review. And you can elevate it to a board review because it's going to appear on an appealable report with a summary of the project and a staff analysis as to why it meets performance standards. Level 3, it's a big project. It's more than 5 units. It's more than 15,000 square feet. Regardless of whether it needs variances or waivers, it would be going to a board. And then level 4 is the ones I've been describing before, where it's combining those actions that are related to the density or the height. Single family homes, duplexes, would continue to just go through the building permit process, which is what they do now. So how does this work out? We did some metrics. We have a great intern in the office, and she had a partner until school started up again. But our 2 interns, Ophelia Carter and Amara, his last name is Adams, we made them count every application for the last 5 years. It took them forever, but they did it. And so we were just trying to figure out where those natural thresholds were, how many got approved, how many got appealed. We were trying to look at where the concerns were. And so this is a breakdown of how the SPRAB and the PZ applications for the last 5 years have worked out, how many were class 3s, 4s, or 5s, how many were at these different levels. And then if we looked at those new thresholds, how would they divide up? So it's about 60-40 would be through a board versus an administrative approval for residential, and then it's closer to 47 to 53 would be through a board versus an administrative approval and an appealable report. So we're routing the more design issues, like if you have what would normally be an administrative approval and you need that landscape waiver, we're still sending those design considerations to SPRAB. And then anything that is more significant development is going to planning board. And because of that, planning board's composition needs to adjust to have one more professional seat there. The other thing is who's going to hear different appeals. That hasn't always tracked in a logical way. So when we have issues for docks that are made by the chief building official, docks are not really a building code issue. So board of adjustment is where they go now, and they really shouldn't. It's an LDR. It's on the water. It's just an odd thing to put. The Florida Building Code doesn't regulate some of that, so we would move that. The recommendation would be for those class 4s for final action by commission, and then relief requirements prior to the consideration of the site plan. Final authority on all 2s and 3s, 2s that have a variance. That's what I'm trying to say, sorry. So 2s would normally be administrative. If you need a variance or a waiver, you've got to go to planning board. 3s, if it needs any relief, and then other things like that. And then SPRAB would maintain any appeal from a signage. There are standards for signage of that are design related, and if staff is not is saying that they don't meet it, it would go to SPRAB to resolve any kind of interpretation of landscape regulation requirements, anything that is administrative way that we are handling level 1s and 2s that you didn't like. And if you have an appeal to any design guideline provision, BPOA, CBD, any others that are adopted in the future, SPRAB would handle that. And then they would have final action on those items that would otherwise be administrative, but they need some relief in the form of a waiver. And master sign programs, which are also part of that. Board of Adjustment pretty much maintains their powers and duties, but some of their work has been shifted over to planning board, and some of it is going to Development Services Management Group. DSMG is an administrative body that's really important in the LDRs, and over the years it's been used heavily and it's been used not so much. Your DSMG currently is required to be me, Steve Tobias, who's your building official, and as the city engineer, who's Patrick Figuerella. Over the years, it has been common for the city managers to appoint as well the public works director, the utilities director, fire chief, building, police chief, et cetera, to help make administrative decisions. In this, this would be the relief body for when, okay, so this is a good one. I'm thinking of one, but there's a different one on the screen. So when there's a technical issue that arises during construction, so if, for example, the CRA building, where they were going to raise the header to a certain height and they got a waiver, and then when they opened up the building, they couldn't move it, and then we had to go back to HPB and back to you to get another 6 inches of height, because it's always the granting, you can't go more than what you got from the board, right? So when there's a technical issue that needs an adjustment, you would be able to go to this technical committee. All of these people are on TAC, only we're the directors now. And we would be able to evaluate up to a certain deviation. And then if it deviates too much, you still have to go to the boards, but we would be able to capture some of those issues that occur during construction that you can prove really are, a technical or hardship based. The other thing is that typically DSMG is hearing, and they end up here a lot, right-of-way reduction requests or approval requests, and most of the time they'll say, well, I would give the right-of-way if you could just, not move my setback, because moving that property line then shifts the rear setbacks for the alleys or other things, and so there would be sort of a way to consider that as part of the transferring of the invisible line, right, so that there's room. New processes. Currently, Historic Preservation Board has more power than the other site plan review boards because they have the ability to grant variances and have everything. They've got the most holistic review process right now. The only thing that they do that this would change, that would give them a little more authority, would be those central business district waivers, that instead of making a recommendation that goes up to the board and then comes back to HPB, and it, just like other waivers and variances, HPB would be able to sort of streamline that. I think if you're going to have a historic building downtown, we should try to, again, make it as easy as possible. The other thing that's come up, I think multiple boards, including this one, has been conditional use considerations. Not so much density, because remember, it's not there anymore. Density and height is now over here in a site plan. But we've had issues where, well, I might be willing to grant that location for a bar, but what if it's too loud, or what if it doesn't work out, adult gaming, different things that have come up where those uses, there's some concern that if I give it, I can't take it back if there's a problem. We did find a way to have a revocation of a conditional use, and the ordinance does include the process, which would include notification, a public hearing, and then you would have to show that the building is not, or the use is not in compliance with the conditions of approval or the findings that were made to do it, which would, I think, give this board, I think, a level of comfort with some of those uses that move through that process, that once they have it, there's no taking it back if it doesn't work out the way they said it would. It's not supposed to be loud, it's too loud. You're supposed to have a buffer, the buffer died, you need to replace it, things like that.
Before you move on,
Yep.
that needs a supermajority, right?
Yes.
To be revoked. So that was something else that we added, so that, to move away from something becoming political. In order to revoke the conditional use, you need 4 out of 5 commissioners to support that.
I'm just gonna double check it. If it's not, we'll adjust it. So and then, okay, so we went over the last one. Reapplication after denial. When we have spent all of this time and we've arrived at a denial, there are many, many other direct things that we need to focus on. Right now, there's a 12-month waiting period. This board can always vote to rehear something else, but this suggests that moving it to 24 months would be a better use of everyone's time, and would maintain, of course, it maintains your ability to waive that for certain projects that deem maybe another consideration after that sort of formal consideration has expired. A lot of what was eliminated were application requirements, and it was just replaced by like, you have to use the city's applications. And then we can adjust those as we need to without amending the code. The other thing is there is an expiration of approvals, not just for site plans. Site plans have an expiration date, it's 24 months after approval. We borrowed this from one of our neighboring communities. If you've gotten a variance or a waiver, and it's part of a site plan, it's gonna travel with the site plan. If you got a standalone waiver or variance that wasn't part of an overall site plan, you need to act on it within a certain period of time, because the findings that you use to make a determination whether it's okay, if 10 years goes by, they're different, right? So this would maintain sort of an expiration of that. Public notice, this is a big change. I think it's an important one. The responsibility for mailers and posting on property is being shifted to the applicant. We will provide the sign, we'll make sure they're filled out properly, we will make sure the mailers are filled out properly, we will have an affidavit and a list and the map that shows who you mailed it to. This is time consuming, it's largely an administrative task. I have planners back there with a master's degree and a stack full of stuffing envelopes. So we're gonna move that. And then in terms of posting the signs, when you see those yellow signs out, that's because a staff member went out there and went onto someone's property and put it there, and then has to go back after the meeting and go and get it. And I just don't think that I'm comfortable sending the team out, stopping, and then, if we don't have to go on someone's property, it's better if we don't. There have been instances where people have not felt safe doing that. So we will give them the signs, and it will be their responsibility to post them. And then submit proof. They have to give us a picture, which is what we do. We have a timestamp photograph. So I've given you sort of a general overview. We're here to answer any questions that you have. How are we going to handle current applications? I think the city attorney has told us to rip the Band-Aid off. So we already have started evaluating what is in the process, the review process now, and how it would shift. And again, I can't, I would have the sole discretion to elevate. And so if there is anything that we're not comfortable with in administrative review, we are going to be sending it up to the boards while we get used to the new system. DDA review is maintained. It's required by Chapter 8, so I don't want anyone to worry that that's coming out. And there will be a new appealable section so that it's really clear to you what came through the process that didn't go to a board that was sort of under that threshold. And then you will maintain the ability to certainly reach out to us, ask questions, or revisit it. So planning board saw this on August 21st, and they voted unanimously to approve it. And that's it.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so this is a public hearing, so if there's anybody here that would like to speak to 8A, B, or C, I believe are the three that we just came across, now would be the time. State your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. Wow, you did make it. Thank you for sticking it out.
Carter Van Voris, 770 North High Point Boulevard North, Delray Beach, Florida. I have a couple of issues with this. Some things that were neglected in the presentation but are actually in the wording of the ordinance, and I read all 91 pages of the ordinance I'm speaking to, which is 31-23. The first thing is, yes, we do have the changes in the levels that are going to be happening for applications that are currently in process. I currently work for a firm that has a level 5 application in process. I have now had longer than 60 days, but we have communicated with the city and said we're about ready to submit. If we rip the Band-Aid off, and I understand that you need to have a drop-dead date, but I wouldn't encourage ripping the Band-Aid off, because that means that my project gets thrown out, and I can't bring it back to you for 2 years. We have expended $500,000 and 3 years working on this project. And we would be tossed out the window if we rip off the Band-Aid. So I would not encourage that. The second thing is the levels now. I don't see that level 4 gets an appealable report at all. So I don't see that is going to happen. Also on page 20 of the 31-23, number under C and then subsection D, resubmissions must be provided within 60 days. I think that's an onerous amount of time, considering we had 27 pages of comments. Many were redundant, was the same comment from several sections of the city. And the other thing is a lot of them were warnings that, beware, this is coming up if you're going to get a permit. But when you have that, and when you have a team of engineers, and you have a team of architects, and you have a team of landscape architects, and you have a small firm like our firm trying to put this together, it takes longer than 60 days to do that. So I would like to ask you to consider changing that. On page 22 of Ordinance 31-23 under reapplication. The reapplication now is 12 months. It's being changed to 24 months. However, this language is a little unclear in the fact it says, any further application for the same request shall not be considered on any part or all of the same property, which means that if I want to apply for a different project on my property, I can't do that for 2 years. So I would request that language be checked. The other thing is on the levels. If you look in levels, that's page 58 of Ordinance 31-23. The presentation left out the fact that everything is going to have to come to the commission for the granting of an in lieu.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Things would have to come to the commission if the application requested the granting of an in lieu parking space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Seeing no one, public comment is closed. We're going to go to the commission with questions. I think that there are.
Do you want me to respond to this?
Well, I was going to. I had some of the same concerns about those in progress, because I think that I know that ripping off the Band-Aid sounds great, but I think that it's to me, it's a little problematic because we're changing things right in the middle of processes that are already ongoing. So you go ahead and respond.
So what we meant by that, and I'm sorry.
That needs a little clarification.
Yes. Okay. Nobody's getting kicked out of the process. It means that if you're in and you're under the threshold, we'll administratively review and approve you if we can. It means if you're in the TAC process is unchanged. So it sounds like you're in the TAC process. You've got your comments.
Yeah.
Bring it back in, and
Correct.
instead of going to SPRAB, you're going to planning board if
Right.
you're at that threshold.
Right.
So nobody is getting kicked out.
Okay, but there is a 60-day now requirement.
Right, because I'm held to 180-day. So what it exactly says, so I'll be happy, she can be the first person to let us know in writing that she's not holding us to a 180-day board review, is that resubmissions must be provided within 60 days of the receipt of comments and shall include a written statement identifying how each comment is addressed. This is already sort of there. The applicant and the city may agree to a reasonable extension of time based on circumstances such as complexity, size, necessary relief through board action. However, failure to contact the city in writing within 60 days of the receipt of TAC will be considered an automatic withdrawal. So you need more time. That is not a problem. We will give you more time, but you can't take all that time and then come and say you're out of compliance with the state law that says I was supposed to be at SPRAB by 180 days. Exactly. So we will agree. I just need you to tell me in writing, and we're going to actually add that as a TAC response. Mm-hmm. I'm electing to utilize more time, and I understand that I'm waiving the 180-day limit. So I know why she's panicking, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to speak casually, but nobody is getting kicked out. You're just going to go to the board that tonight ends up with jurisdiction over that type of application. And I just want you all to understand that includes me administratively approving the ones that are at a lower level if they meet the code. They have to totally meet the code.
So there is one exception. So we've had some applications that SPRAB might have postponed during this time limit. Those are going to stay with SPRAB. So that's the one exception to this rule, because they've already seen it. We're not going to start fresh with those. If they postpone with direction, those will stay with SPRAB, and they'll make the final decision, and then those will, proceed on whatever path is appropriate.
And then reapplication, that came up on page 22, is when the city commission or board has denied. You've had a final action, and your final action is denial. So you have an appeal process. That's not changed, right? You can still appeal. You file with the city clerk that you want to appeal the lower board's decision. Of course, if it's city commission, then, you know, depending, it's sort of final, it's court. So that stays in there, but if you got a denial, it stands, you know, don't come back around and drop off the same project 3 months later and expect a different outcome. You're kind of wasting everyone's time at that point. So, so there are still those, there's still the process. There's always the process to figure out how to get where you're trying to go.
Okay, so come back to that one again, page 22, which is the 12 months, now 24 months, but only if denied, they basically can bring in a different project. It's not the same project.
It has to
It's
be
not
different.
going to be the same project. They can do that within the 2 years, whereas what I just heard was that if it's denied, ain't nothing happening on that property for the next 2 years. I mean,
No. It's the same project.
okay,
That's
so
what it
just
says.
make sure that that's very
Further
clear.
application for the same request is what it says.
Okay.
Shall not be considered. The same request. Can I have automotive commercial? No.
So this
Can I
would be
have it
like
again?
the
No.
ABCJS.
No, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I just heard something very different
Yeah.
from somebody who says, I read everything and I understand this, and obviously she's knowledgeable in this because she's working in this field. So to me, I just don't want to not address that, because that is an issue. If
This is almost exactly verbatim the same. We just made it 24 months.
It's the same language in the code
It's the
today.
same language that's currently in the code. And we made it consistent with, I think, is it sponsorships or something else out in the code had a 2-year wait.
So
it's
we're just
making
saying, if
it
you're gonna come back
consistent.
with the same project, don't do it for 2 years.
Correct. Now remember, people can always ask for waivers, right? So
Mhm.
that is a portion of the code that if somebody wanted to come before you and ask for a waiver, you can waive that portion of the code. But, you know, typically, you know, we think that's an appropriate amount of time for the dust to settle, and then if a new commission wants to hear it again, then they can wait for the 24 months.
Right, and if there's been significant changes, they
Then
can.
it's a different project.
That's a
Correct.
right.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's the same time frame as an approval lasts, so a denial
Right,
should
that's
at
what it
least
is.
last
It's
the
the
same.
approval.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. Then finally, the in lieu parking, yes, that is one where that is a consolidated review. Instead of hearing, I need 33 spaces, I need 12 spaces, separate from the site plan. I mean, and this assumes we bring the in lieu back, which, you know, we're going to start working on now that if this is finished. If you're asking not to provide your parking spaces to buy it out, let's see what you're building.
Yeah.
And let's look at it and let's see if you've really maximized the ability to meet your parking requirement or not. I think that that's important, that, you know, we understand, you know, why you're buying your spaces out instead of building them. And it should be wrapped up in one action. So that was quite purposeful.
Okay, so back to the 60 days of, let's just go through the scenario that this lady came up and spoke about. They're in the middle of responding to the TAC comments, okay, right in the middle of it. And now, and they're into it, let's say 45 or 50 days. They got 10 more days left to respond to it, if we start this tomorrow. Is there not any kind of a grace period for those people who are those entities that are already in the process? To me, it feels a little, you know, whenever this starts, it feels like it may catch some people in that process, and they may not respond to you with a letter, hey, I need more time, because they don't realize, because they're in the process. To me, I just feel like, I don't want to necessarily say that we shouldn't rip off the Band-Aid, but I also don't want to be onerous to somebody that's going through a process and we're kind of changing things. And now all of a sudden they've been caught. I don't want that to happen.
As long as they're not going to hold staff to 180 days to a meeting, because you don't get your comments disappear for 4 months and then demand to be on the next
Okay, but
application,
can we,
and that's really the concern.
right, I understand, but let's I understand what you're saying. You're getting the pushback on the other side. They're not responding quick enough, and then all of a sudden you guys are on this crazy train to get it done by a certain date, to get it within that 180 days. Could it not coordinate with how much more time they're taking? In other words, pushing it out so that you have that 6 months, or whatever time it is. It's, what time do you have beyond? You're 60 days, and then they're 60 days, and then how much time do you have? 180. You have another 60 days. 100.
Well, it assumes that you didn't already go through once or twice. So
Right.
there's that too. So, I mean, honestly, it's literally like you could send an email to your planner I'm going to need longer than this.
Right.
You know, we're going to work out.
Right.
It's not
Right.
meant
There's
to
no
be onerous.
formality to it,
We just
so.
need an acknowledgement that isn't a phone call that we have a public record of.
Are you going to make sure that everybody that's in the process understands that, so that they're not caught with
Right.
not communicating with you, and then all of a sudden they're kicked out of the process?
Right. No, we're not going to, honestly, we're not booting anybody out, but we do have the people who've disappeared for a really long time.
No, I get
So
that.
then we're going to send them letters.
And
like, hey,
listen,
we're going to assume you're not coming back. You know?
I understand that is part of the problem here and what we're trying to correct, and I 100% support that. I really do. And I also want to say that the conditional use revocation, 100% support what you guys are doing there as well, and the expiring of the approvals of 12 months instead of it just just having no end date. I'm with you. I just don't want to have anything happen to those that are in the process that get caught up, and they can get this through and not feel like they have to now go through the entire process again and start over.
And we don't want to do it all over again.
I'm sure you don't.
Trust me, we don't want to do it all over. So yes, we will.
All right.
We will be that. What we meant was when you're ready to go to a board, you're going to go to the board that this ordinance defines. You're going to go through that process.
Right.
We're not going to reassess your fees, right? Because you're just going to go where you should go based on your development threshold, including potentially not to a board at all, depending on where you are. Because we have a couple of those where it's landscape changes, and there's really no reason to go to SPRAB if it meets the code.
I feel like during this transition period,
Yeah,
I trust
kinder,
your,
gentler promise.
I trust your judgment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be good.
Sounds good. Any other questions or concerns? Go ahead, right ahead, Deputy Vice Mayor.
I don't have questions or concerns, but I do have accolades I'd like to give to you guys. This is a really comprehensive change here. And we asked for it thinking we could just kind of combine SPRAB and planning and zoning, and not knowing that there were some state statutes that don't really allow that. But you guys effectively accomplished all those same efficiencies regardless. You know, having sat on both of those boards for quite a while, you know, I had to do the thing where it's like, don't look at the site plan, you know, while you're making your decisions, and it made it really confusing for not only board members but for residents who are trying to follow along. So just fixing that and making that more holistic is great, but all the things you guys are able to move to administrative approval and all the other comprehensive changes you guys have made here are going to create hopefully a much easier job for staff, and hopefully turn things around much quicker for applicants. So I love to see things like this, and thank you for hearing us out and going through all this work.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you guys have done, because this is, again, it's like almost like a pile of spaghetti where you're trying to get it to every single area that it's reaching into, and it just, you know, one little small change, it doesn't really amount to that. It's huge. It's a huge undertaking. One other question I had is, why are we having to change the boards if we're not changing P&Z and we're not changing SPRAB? We have the same boards, they're just doing different things. Why do we have to now knock everybody out and start all over?
So we did change the professional qualifications for for planning board, because planning board didn't have the number of architect, developer, like the professional qualifications, and yet they're going to be looking at the most intense development now. So that's why that composition.
So in order to be able to create the board that actually is now going to be required to be able to do the things that this larger, I guess, they're going to be doing a much bigger job. We need to make sure that
we cleaned it up. I mean, there were some professions on there that we also felt weren't necessarily appropriate.
Yes,
okay,
and they are looking at the big picture. So we want those subject matter experts to be able to provide the feedback that's necessary to staff and the commission. You know, if it comes to you.
So
for
it's just to
appealable.
build a new board so that we're meeting the qualifications.
5 professionals.
Just ensuring
instead of
that those
4.
professions
All
are
right, that's great. Very good.
covered.
I just wanted to make sure I got that on the record too.
And we also expanded that, just since we were in there, we expanded the historic preservation. Not that they're being reappointed, but to be consistent with the state professions that are called for by the state.
Yes.
So that opened up a couple of other options for qualified. As you know, certified local government gives us a little bit of financial boost with grants, and so we want to be sure we maintain that.
All right, so entertain motion for. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no, I didn't really do that.
No, be quick.
Go right ahead.
I just, Lewis.
Sorry.
I just, I wanted to join what Mr. Long said. I know it was a long process and a big project that we tasked But one thing I wanted to add, I mean, obviously, thank you, ladies, and everyone in your department. But Lynn,
100%.
I can't tell you how many times, many times I saw with some of the boards where your assistant city attorneys had to say, no, sorry, you can't look at that, or no, sorry. So hopefully this will streamline the process. This, I think, will be very, very important going forward, and just a monumental task by both your departments, and it's well appreciated.
We didn't know how big it was till we started doing it, and then
I'll
we were
bet.
like,
It was like,
oh my
gosh,
God.
overwhelming.
A lot of panic attacks, but we got through it, right?
Well,
Chris?
I was going to also say that we have been in the same situation where we're not allowed to consider something because we're
Right.
only approving what
Looking at one
P&Z,
we
and so
won't
it's the
be
same
yelling
thing.
at Mr.
and-
Schiller anymore.
Exactly.
his
You'll be able to
Stop
come up with a
showing
whole
your picture.
project.
Some of these new rules have names to them.
You
We'll
got
share
it.
those privately with you later.
Commissioner Burns, did you have something
Yes,
to say?
I just wanted to give accolades as well for all the work that you've done on this city attorney and your staff. One of the resounding things that I heard during my campaign was the processes and the different steps and how long it takes for applications and applicants to go through. So just kudos for improving customer service for our residents and our applicants. Thank you.
We
Thank
like
you.
streamlining.
And this is where I just want to say, Amy and I keep looking at each other like, what's the glitch bill going to
gonna
have?
find it.
Because we know we've missed like something.
It will, but you know that's
So
that's
just-
exactly right. You just fix it.
Temper your expectations, there will be a cleanup coming.
Scrivener's error. We'll call it a Scrivener's error.
A little more
Fix
than
it.
that.
Thank you.
But I just want to say this, and I know you want to move on, but I think it speaks to the trust that you have in your staff, because these are some really big changes,
Huge.
and you've all been so receptive to our ideas, and you told us just write what you think you need. And that just speaks to them, because that means that you trust these people. And I kept saying, she might not be here forever. Are you sure you want to do this? So I think that really speaks to, the staff that you have that works for you, that you put a lot of faith in these guys. So
Well, deserved. Deserved.
Thank you.
All right. Entertain a motion now. We're all finished.
separately.
Motion to
Yeah.
approve ordinance number 31-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Motion to approve ordinance number 32-23.
Second.
Call the roll.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes. Motion to approve ordinance number 33-23.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
All right, moving on to resolution number 205-23.
I was just going to make a motion and see if I could slip it in there.
No.
Second.
All right, I won't
Let
talk
her
too
do
long.
the-
I just want you to know what we're doing. So
Yes.
Is this the discussion part?
this is this is fees associated with these new levels and things. So in 2003, the City Commission directed us to update the fees every 2 years. 2015, there was a major update. In 2020, we did a comparison and we made a couple of other updates. So what you're going to see now is related to these new levels that we have. We did, as we always do, we compare our fees. This is just for the planning. This isn't building permits, but this is planning. When you're a certified local government, our historic team has access to asking everyone else who is, and they're always very supportive of each other and provide a lot of information. So our CLGs gave us input. We belong, of course, with IPARC, which is part of the county's land use plan, and we looked at other cities as well. So there is no change to the historic preservation application fees, the BPOA application fees, to murals, to the plan check fees and other things with building permits. Ultimately, generally when we increase fees, it's a 5%, maybe a 10% if it's a more complex application. We also are bringing in new fees for things like doing a unity of title, which takes time for the city attorney's office and planning, and then there's other as-built fees and things like that. We did get rid of a preliminary plat fee because that process got removed in this. It's just we're going to talk about the plat, not preliminarily, right from the get-go. Blanket sign programs, which we don't use, and then that conditional use for increased height and density is no longer needed because it's part of the level 4 site plan review. So here's our current fees for class 1s. I actually just emailed somebody today saying, well, just don't put it in yet. Let us pass these because it's a landscape plan, and so that's going to go down to, basically, $400 instead of $525. We're trying to have it reflect the complexity of things. Murals stayed the same, and then site revisions. We did move. Right now, the way that the fees work is that it's based on the acreage of your parcel. And based on the way our city builds out, we really need to be doing it based on the number of units you're bringing forward, because that's when we get the complexity, and it doesn't always relate to a Parks of Delray type of situation, right? It's happening on smaller parcels as well. So we tried to do it in a gradation of how big it is, and then we would remove any fee associated with workforce housing. It's small, but don't pay $25 for the one that you're bringing in to try to bring some affordability. So that's what's in front of you. Currently, resubmittal fees are another one. We write all of the comments down, then you need to respond to them. And you'll see on some of those TAC reviews, it'll say repeat comment, repeat comment, repeat comment. So the resubmittal fee is probably one of the more significant raises, is that to start really seriously. Honestly, it's been told to us more than once that I just drop the project off and wait to see what the comments are. And I have actually rejected a huge project at one point saying, I don't think you read the code, and I'm not putting my team to do your quality control. So we really do want to try to work with that. I would also say to anybody watching that we will set up an internal meeting. We call them page turns, where if you don't understand your comments, we'll meet with you and whatever discipline made the comment and go through it to show you what you need to do. So I think we can work smarter in a way, but if they're going to keep dropping them off, not responding to comments, that review got increased. As a side note, this is not addressing building permit fees or impact fees. Impact fees are in the process of moving through an analysis to start. And building permit fees will also be going through a review and an analysis this year. We've started the purchasing process on both of those. So that will be coming to you later. So these were kind of the more significant changes. And we're here if you have questions.
Okay, great. Let me ask you just one other question, and I know I'm going backwards, but it was something I've written down, and I just want to ask about it. We're now putting on the applicants to have to put the signs out, send out the notices and everything. What if they don't? Is that going to put it back on us because
they will be removed from the agenda prior to action?
But what I'm saying is how do we know beforehand? We know for sure we're doing it. We know we're sending out the letters. We know we're making that. We don't know, if they're doing that, and if they're not doing something legal and we proceed and we don't, unknowingly we proceed, are we not putting ourselves in a crosshair situation where a neighbor might say, I was never notified of this and had no idea about it, even though somebody else was supposed to do it, and you all just went on. What kind of a position do we get put into, and is this okay?
So what we're asking them to do is that they already they pulled the mailer information. You have to give us the map that the county generates. It shows everybody who touches your within 500 feet. They give us an address list, and then we ask for them to give us stamped envelopes that are addressed to every one of those people. So what we're going to do instead is you're giving us the affidavit that you've sent this, that you're going to send this. We're giving you the mailer. Staff is going to write the mailer, and then we just email it to them and say, this is your mailer. They have to swear on a notarized thing that they did it. And they'll be here in a quasi-judicial hearing with their hand up saying that they did when you ask them. Now, we know we send them and we still get people saying they never got it. But, it's because it goes to the owner of the property that's registered with the county. For the signs, we're asking for a time-stamped photographer that you send it back to us, which is what we do internally anyway.
Gotcha.
We take a picture of the sign, we have the date and the time that it was taken, and then if it gets removed or somebody throws it into the street when nobody's looking, there's only so much we can do.
Okay. And then with regards to fees, like for instance, there's going to be a fee, obviously, that legal can assess for certain things that legal is doing. Does that fee stay with legal, or does it go into your department? The reason I ask is because that building department.
Planning is not in the building fund.
Okay, so that's a
planning
whole
is
different-
general fund.
All right, all right.
So I have one wealthy side and I have one very poor
Okay,
side
all right.
of my family.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and not with the same restrictions,
Yes.
obviously, so,
Right.
okay, all right, very good. Answers my questions. Anyone else with any questions, concerns? No? Entertain a motion?
Motion to approve resolution number 205-23.
Second again.
Call the roll.
Mr. Frankel.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mr. Boylston.
Yes.
Ms. Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia.
Yes. All right, so now we're gonna have the nomination. Thank you, ladies, so much, and thanks for being so patient with us, because I know this was very deep. So appreciate everything you did to get us to where we are. Nomination of the appointment to the Planning and Zoning, and then also that's 8E and 8F. We've got a change in timing of actually doing these nominations, but you wanted to keep it on the agenda.
I did. So, I believe that there may have been at least one more one more board member who was didn't receive the proper information or didn't understand and didn't get their application in time. Anybody who was sitting on one of our boards currently does have the right to, ask to be reappointed, and so that's part of the reason why I am asking that we defer this and to allow the clerk to accept additional applications at least for the next week, so that if anybody who's currently sitting on a board didn't have the opportunity to at least notify the clerk that they wanted to be considered, if they don't see their names on this list, they will have that opportunity. So I would ask for that. And then, in speaking with the clerk, we didn't really know how to assign the order for appointments, and so I was going to defer to the commission. We haven't really created new boards in a while, so my position would have been we should have started with seat 1 because it's a brand new board. Or, but the clerk's position was maybe we just continue the order as it was. So we're just gonna defer to the commission and ask you all to direct us so that we can properly change the agenda cover memo for the next meeting.
So I'll because we went through this exercise on the phone together, and although I get the short straw, I really think we should go 1 through 5, starts it up fresh. And it should be there's 4 seats that are 2-year, 3 that are 1 year. So the first 4 people to appoint get the 2 years. I'm the 5th, so I get a 1 year. And then we go back up to seat 1 and 2, and they get a 1 year each. I just think that is the straightest, most fairest way to go. And again, as I was doing the exercise with Lynn on the phone, I was like, oh, I get 1 appointment for 1 year, but that's the way it works out. So.
Got it?
Right, is that no, that isn't the way it works out.
Actually,
now that we did, that's not
I
the
don't
way
think
we
you're
did it, 'cause
5.
I'm 3.
You're 3, so.
So
I
I
mean, you
get
can
one of the
volunteer
the
yourself.
2 years, but I don't get a second appointment. I get 1 appointment, 2 years.
You would get 1 2-year. So one is Commissioner Frankel, 2 is Deputy
mayor's
Vice Mayor
5.
Long.
Okay.
You're
I'm
3.
5.
Oh, you're 5, so.
Maybe it was in the other way we were talking about it. How did neither of us catch that on the phone?
I don't
we
know
were
the
like,
numbers.
I know, we were talking
All right,
through
so we're
so
just
many
doing 1
different
through
options.
5, and
1 through 5?
and there's 2 additional.
Okay.
And then maintain that for the SPRAB as well?
Well, I mean, it's a new board.
Yes?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and it's okay to leave these open for 1 more week? So
Yes.
that the board members.
Especially because this list has changed just over the few days. Right? Yeah. Okay, good. And we're gonna, I think it's right
So
just
this
to
will
take
be on
a.
November 7th.
So we don't need to do any kind of, we're just giving you
We're
direction.
just gonna defer it, yep. And then the SPRAB meetings, those board members will be notified because that's gonna have to change, but nothing will be impacted until after November 7th.
Okay.
We can't, we need to do 8G though, because Board of Adjustment is meeting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, no,
They
we're
need
moving
ready.
on. 8G, nomination for the appointment of the Board of Adjustments. It starts with Vice Mayor Boylston.
I would like to reappoint Alexandra Hayes.
Well, there goes mine.
Second.
Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mr. Boylston.
Yes.
Ms. Burns.
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia.
Yes.
Mr. Frankel.
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Burns, who would you like to nominate?
I would like to nominate Seth Mitchell.
Second.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
So, those were the two that I had written down, and I didn't do anything more. Do you have to have a third, or can I defer?
Anthea, do we need a third?
So you have 6. Are you good?
So you can defer.
I'm gonna defer then, because I put down those two as my first and second. I didn't do it, figuring I would have no problem.
And Mr. Cantwell's off
was
because
chosen.
Yeah,
was
he's
already
already
chosen.
off, so that's
Okay.
right. Well, listen, maybe I'll just go ahead and, was there one that was, I'll do Casser. I'll just go ahead and do it.
Second.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
All right, very good. Moving on, we don't have 8H because 8H was moved to the consent agenda, and we are now at the comments and inquiries section. Mr. Moore.
Yes, ma'am. One brief item, and that is a friendly reminder to the commission as well as the community, notably the community. The education symposium regarding Atlantic Avenue Historic District consideration to take place both Thursday, October 26, 2023, 3 o'clock p.m. at the Fieldhouse at Old School Square, as well as a second opportunity the following morning, Friday, October 27th, 2023, at the Fieldhouse at Old School Square at 10 a.m. via the Department of Development Services, highly anticipated and therefore good to share with the community that is underway, 2 different opportunities. And I believe the elected officials, you all have cards
Yep.
presented in front of you at the beginning of the meeting. Otherwise, I yield at this time.
All right, very good.
Okay.
Attorney
Can I
Lynn?
just
Oh,
make a
yeah,
comment
sure.
about that? So our track record for attendance for any town halls we've done or the recent budget workshop, which was great, has been lacking. So whatever ideas we have, and I know we're on Facebook, we make videos, we send emails, I'm going to hand out all 3 of these. But really, anything that we can do with our network, I mean, this is so important.
No, absolutely.
Right, and we want the entire community to really understand what we're doing here. So I know we've just struggled in the past, and I get it. People are busy, and and they can't carve out that
I
time.
got an
but
idea for you.
here-
Because Renee she said 75 to 100 people at her event. What kind of food can you provide? I'm serious. If you feed people, they'll come. I'm serious.
You think that was the secret? That's
Well,
the secret.
All I know is Renee, in one event, had more people than in the history of town halls in her city.
We'll consider it.
Yeah.
Right, and the other
But
thing too
any
is,
of our partners, the chamber, the
well,
DDA,
I was going to suggest that reaching out to Winnie because she has connections, and this is very important to her. The Historic Society, also the Preservation Trust, they're very much in connection. They should blow it out. So what we could do is reach out to these organizations to blow it out so that people understand. We're discussing what our future is on the downtown section, and we need to bring them out.
And let's not ignore that this is also there's an economic aspect to
Exactly. There
this.
should be people that are also downtown that should be
DDA,
coming.
Chamber,
Absolutely.
Merchants Association.
And
Really,
yes.
let's leverage our network here for this.
Anthea's been meeting one-on-one with the property owners on the Ave.
Yeah.
She's also going to do a collective meeting with them, and obviously they are invited to the symposium.
Very good.
So we've
Okay.
been spreading
All
the
right.
word.
I just really want this to be a success.
Of course. Thank you.
Just very quickly, I think Anthea mentioned it during her presentation. The Board of Adjustment is established by charter. I would like direction to for the November ballot to potentially do a referendum in order to remove that from the charter and put all of the responsibilities in the Planning and Zoning Board. A lot of communities don't have a Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment, those appeals actually go to the circuit court. They don't come to the commission, which is unlike our other appellate matters that do come before the city commission. Gives everybody one last bite. So I would like direction to potentially remove that board in its totality and just put all those responsibilities with the Planning and Zoning Board.
This would have to be on the ballot.
Correct.
Okay, well, we'll see what the people say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, so let's start with Deputy Vice Mayor, anything? All right, Commissioner Frankel.
I gave a speech earlier to start the meeting, but I forgot to make a motion to approve resolution 212-23.
Oh, second.
We never voted on it. I thought our city attorney was paying attention.
Clearly I wasn't. You know why?
Okay.
Because you removed it from consent. So
Yeah,
that's
call the roll,
right.
please. Thank you for catching that.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
I again thank you all for
All
your
right.
support.
Yeah, it wasn't part of the consent agenda, you're right. All right, moving on to Commissioner Burns.
Yes, just wanted to commend the fire for the open house that
yeah.
happened this weekend. It was really nice, a nice turnout, and I enjoyed myself.
Fantastic.
Thank
Isn't
you.
that a great thing that they do? Love it. All right,
All right,
Vice Mayor?
so you guys are all going to make me say it. Lights for the pickleball courts. We had several speakers come.
Well,
It is a safety. It 100% is
Well,
a safety issue.
let me ask a question. What is the timing on the park? Is it to dusk or is it beyond? Because I'm kind of
we
wondering.
changed the regulations, and for parks, I think it's as posted.
Okay.
That's what we ended up writing.
The park is actually dark by the time people are leaving?
Sam is nodding his
Sam?
head yes.
No, they are. Okay, well, it's a very easy fix for there's lights that are out. Obviously, they said there's 6 lights operating and there's a bunch of them that are out. So we can fix those, right?
Absolutely.
And we can make them brighter, maybe do LED?
Well, LED is a whole nother ask. That's retrofitting the whole system with a whole new
okay.
lighting system.
Well, start with.
Let's start with light bulbs.
incandescent. At least get the light.
Let's start with light bulbs.
And we actually, we were talking about it out in the hall. We've met with them 2
Yeah.
weeks ago. We even said like we're getting the quotes in now from the contractor, so it's already in the works for.
So when we're.
I think they were just keeping you updated on.
Okay,
on
so
that.
basically, we are gonna be looking at lights in the parking lot.
Yeah, it's already in the
All right,
works.
Fantastic.
As well as the windscreens they mentioned as well.
Oh, good, so I can cross that off of my comments too.
There we go.
We closing it at 9. It's very busy, but
Yeah.
we can close off the other sections like the water play area where they don't have lights. So we could close that off and still allow the pickleball play to continue. So the lights are needed, and it's also an issue in the morning even because they're getting there so
Get so
early. And other thing that we talked about with the group is the plan is to have it done by the end of the month even, so that we can try to beat the time change when it goes earlier or darker.
Yeah.
Because that'll make it an issue again even more so.
Absolutely.
So
Okay.
we're on it.
So I was gonna also just say, because, everybody's got stealing the thunder here. I don't think that park has ever been as busy as it has been recently since those pickleball courts have been added, other than when we do an event there. I mean, it is constant. You go by there's always people playing, the parking lot's full. It's pretty impressive that has changed that park, and like they said, it's a little gem, a quiet little gem that most people don't know about, which is really great. So it's kind of breathed some life into Catherine Strong Park.
Yeah, it's
It's
great.
great. Thank you. Go right ahead, continue.
And then we actually had a speaker on this, the golf course.
Yep.
I haven't been contacted, but you've been contacted. Former mayor's been contacted.
But we've talked about going out for the RFP.
So-
But I think that he had a very good point in that RFP should be really written up by somebody who understands how to write an RFP for this specifically.
So I did forget to update you on this. We are in the process of securing a former purchasing director to act as a consultant, and this is something that is completely right up his alley.
Okay.
Okay.
He comes very well regarded. He teaches procurement, and we're in the process of finalizing his agreement. So
Put him on this.
exactly.
That is part of the mix, so that's
Right.
forthcoming, and this is actually consistent with an information letter report I offered recently on the topic to cover both subjects, the historic designation as well as the piece we're covering
Yeah.
here. So we are proceeding.
If the interest is there, at least one good thing that we can get out of that whole process of last year and it making the news is everything is that people are paying attention, they're interested. I just want to make sure that we're jumping on it.
So be it.
Okay, great.
That's it?
That's it.
All right, very good. Just 2 things left on mine. First, I want to say that I voted no on that issue that we talked about with reimbursement, not because of the reimbursement. I wanted to vote yes for that, but they combined it with something I couldn't agree with, which is going after people who are submitting something that basically it falls short of having a negative outcome to one of us. So I just am concerned about that reflection, and if it had been broken out, I just wanted to make it very clear, I would have voted yes for the reimbursement, because anybody who is up here who has gone through an ethics complaint and comes out on the other side positive, absolutely should be reimbursed. It should not be on anybody's, tab. So just to make that clear, I didn't want you to think that I was voting no on you being reimbursed. I got reimbursed when I had the same thing happen. And the second thing I wanted to bring up was just to my colleagues, it's not open to the public, it's open to anybody who's serving on a board currently. We've got the board appreciation event tomorrow night, so hopefully you guys can make it. It's 5:30 to 7:30. There's gonna be some, it's just a way to be able to just say thank you to those that are serving for us. And
good timing.
absolutely, it's really great, and it's nice to start that back up again. So just hoping you guys can make it. It's over at the Cornell Museum. That's it. Anything else? Nothing?